Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku made Todoroki fall for him in college? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. It started as most disasters do, with Bakugou Katsuki. Before the green little sheet fell, before Halfie whipped his butt, before Hair for Brains, it was Bakugou under the street lamp at 1 a.m., gnats flying around in the summer air and thugs jumping him every other month or two. But this time was different. It was right before the UA Military University entrance exams, so naturally, he'd been holed up at the library before getting shooed out at midnight. Figures nothing good ever happens after midnight. Out of the corner of his eyes he saw a thicket of good-for-nothing assholes leaning up against the side of a brick building, and get this. Bakugou actually thought, in this rundown, vermin-infested shithole, that he could avoid them by not making eye contact. Yeah. At least before they pulled out the knives and laid him out, Bakugou held his ground and knocked a few fuckers down. He'll probably never forget the guy's wrinkly face and greasy gray hair. "Shigaraki Tamura," he said. "You fight pretty well, why don't you join us?" F you, he spat in his face because 1, there's no way in hell he'd willingly hang around these swarmy fuckers, and 2, gang involvement would be on his permanent record, and then there'd definitely be no way UA would accept him. So he got thrashed. A gash under his eye the length of Japan, a fuckton of bruises, a cracked rib, he was pretty sure, and effed up eyeliner. If it weren't for some model citizen driving down the road in his BMW, who the F drives at 1 a.m. in the morning? Then again, Bakugou can't really say for himself, he probably would have laid there for God knows how long. The guy wanted to take him to his house and treat him there, but Bakugou has had enough shady people for a night. And with that wonky dye job of his, this half-red half-white hair massacre was definitely shady. Suit yourself, the guy shrugged, dropped him off on a more well-lit sidewalk and drove off. Call it fate, whatever, but Bakugou saw him again a week later. Once he got home, he had cleaned his wounds until he only felt like he had been run over by a medium-sized car and not a truck. 2 days later, he walked into the building where entrance exams were being held looking like a hot mess, read, mangy punk, but still managed to pass the written and physical tests with top marks, so he figured he was feeling pretty good for a guy who just got beat up and was content to forget about the whole thing. Until he met his roommate. Or actually re-met. "You're the one who got his butt kicked," Halfie commented. "And you're the a-hole with the bad dye job," he shot back, because excuse me, he did not get his butt kicked that hard. "What the F are you doing here? I didn't see you at the entrance exams." "I didn't take the entrance exams. I was scouted." Halfie murmured the last part. Translation: Daddy is rich. No wonder, no one else here could afford a FANG BMW. "My dad, he has connections?" Halfie's voice catches in his throat and the eye on the burnt side of his face twitches. The small, telling movement would have been missed by anyone else, but Bakugou's perceptive like that. There's a reason why Halfie's placeholder nickname was Halfie instead of FING Fryface. Bakugou's an a-hole, but not that much of an a-hole. "Whatever, Halfie." "Todoroki Shuto." "What?" "My name. Todoroki Shuto, not Halfie." Bakugou Katsuki. He shoves his hands in his pockets. Sure, half and half might be in but sometimes, but that didn't mean he was going to let him hold him down. UA didn't allow freshman roommate exchanges, something about learning to work with others and build relationships or whatever. Bakugou has a plan for his future. See, get into UA, get into the chemistry fellowship, graduate as valedictorian, and join the military as chief tactician and head scientist specializing in explosives. He wasn't about to suffer a whole year and let a FING roommate ruin his life. Bakugou ends up suffering anyway. Because the guy wasn't like Bakugou, who rose with the sun every morning. Bakugou only saw Todoroki in some of their shared afternoon classes and in the evening in their dorm. Todoroki wasn't a bad guy. Sure, he could be an ice beach sometimes, and sure, he FING cheated in Mario Kart, because there is no FING way Bakugou, the king of Mario Kart, could lose in a fair game. And sure, he had weirdest temperature preferences and liked having the AC on full blast in the dead of winter, watching with his smug BSTRD face as Bakugou shivered, but he wasn't too bad of a roommate. Todoroki took care of Bakugou when he was sick, usually from the AC, which is Todoroki's fault anyway, and in return, Bakugou killed all the spiders. Sometimes, they even studied together since both their areas of study were science-related, Todoroki's being environmental sciences and Bakugou's being chemistry. "I like blowing sheet up," he explained, and Todoroki didn't look all that surprised. For the most part, they had reached a mutual understanding. It wasn't until Todoroki fell in love that Bakugou discovered two things about his roommate he hadn't known before. 1. Todoroki was a fruitcake. 2. He was awkward as hell when it came to love. The latter was more of a surprise than the first. Anyone who dyed their hair like that could not be gay. Bakugou just never asked because honestly he couldn't care less what Todoroki preferred to put his mouth on. But for discovery number 2, he would have never guessed from the way chicks just seemed to fall all over themselves to drape on his tea. People seemed to flock towards him, like he was some social beacon or some sheet. Todoroki was a hot loaf of bread, and considering how well-known Todoroki LP was, it wasn't a surprise people wanted a piece of his dough. That, or it was just because he was fine as F-. Hell, even Bakugou could see that Todoroki was easy on the eyes, obviously, not as hot as he was though. "His name's Midoriya," Todoroki said, probably sighing with lovesickness and disgustingness under his resting beach face. "And he's amazing." Bakugou grunted from his spot over his chem notes, not really that interested, but this Midoriya guy must have been a gem because Todoroki could not shut up about him. Apparently, Todoroki met Midoriya in his required English class and he was absolutely smitten by his intellect and cuteness factor. Midoriya's notes are meticulously crafted and detailed. Midoriya wears the same pair of red JS every day. Midoriya has a head full of dark, green-tinted locks. Of course he fell for a guy with a dye job, Bakugou mused, that he liked to brush back every time he bent his head down to write. Midoriya has the cutest smile and once smiled at Todoroki when he picked up his eraser. Midoriya has 67 freckles on his appealing face, but the number changes depending on how sunny it is. Midoriya this, Midoriya that, Midoriya blah blah blah. Okay, great, but have you actually ever interacted with Midoriya? Bakugou asked because honestly, this was getting out of hand. Yes, Todoroki frowned, confused. "Didn't I tell you that once he smiled at me because I handed him his eraser?" "Oh my god, that doesn't count," Bakugou huffed. "I mean like, do you even know his first name? Have you guys ever talked outside of class?" No response. "Yeah, that's what I FNG thought, you pathetic sheet." A week later, Todoroki proudly tells him that Midoriya's first name is Izuku. Wow, Bakugou drawls. What a charmer, he knows his first name. Todoroki sometimes wonders if having Bakugou as a medium for all his Midoriya rambles is a good idea. Bakugou, as it turns out, is a medium for everyone's love ramblings. He doesn't even know why. It's not like he's had any standout romantic relationships himself. And then she said she likes girls. Some guy from Bakugou's required art class wails from on top of Todoroki's bed, burying his sniveling face in Todoroki's pillow, and getting his snot all over Todoroki's sheets. Bakugou almost tells him to get the F out, but then figures that he's fine as long as it's Todoroki's stuff that's getting sheet on. "What's wrong with being gay, huh?" "Nothing," the guy cries. "Nothing, except for the fact that I'm a dude and Jair doesn't like dudes." Bakugou sighs, pinches the bridge of his nose, and prays to God this fucker would hurry up and run out of tears so he could leave. "Bakugou," he sniffs loudly. "Do you think things will work out between me and Jairu?" "How the F would I know," he says. He thinks it might be the dude's hair, though. Who dyes a lightning bolt on the side of his head? Hell, a bad dye job is probably the reason Todoroki's suffering too. Some weeks later, Bakugou manages to get roped in with a bunch of fuckers he never wanted to associate himself with. Ashido, or Black Eyes as he liked to call her because of the funky colored contacts she liked to wear. And in return, she calls him Blasty. To match your explosive personality, she had said, suggests they have some group bonding time. Bakugou refuses because he's obviously not part of the group. "You just don't want to get your butt kicked in Mario Kart." Soy Sauce Face taunted. "Too chicken, Blasty?" Kaminari says. And okay, he cannot just let that one go. He is the goddamn king of Mario Kart. F you, Pikachu. Who was crying in my dorm about a girl 2 weeks ago? Bakugou snaps back. I'm gonna give you another reason to cry once I whoop your butt at that stupid game. He storms off in the direction of his dorm, ignoring the snickers behind him. Fuckers thought they manipulated him. They were going to regret challenging him. As expected, he ends up beating all of them. Unexpected, they're still smiling like idiots and even had the audacity to laugh and joke around with him like they're pals or some shit. After they leave and Bakugou finally gets some peace and quiet, Todoroki comes back, looking ready to start off on another emotionally stunted diatribe. But instead, he eyes the Wii, sits his butt down, and proceeds to whoop Bakugou's butt. But only because he used cheats. Obviously. What the F do you want with Midoriya, anyway? Bakugou asks him one night, when they're getting shit-faced drunk in their dorm and celebrating the end of midterms. Woo. Came the intelligent response and Bakugou repeats it for the poor fool. I wanna hold him and hug him and kiss him. Todoroki slurs and presses the cool glass of the beer bottle against his reddening face. And take him out on dates and then bang him? Todoroki blushes and curls his knees to his tea, head down, and after a while, nods. You ever do it with anyone before? He shakes his head. Want me to teach you? Maybe it was his neglected 18-year-old energy combined with his stalled relationship with Midoriya that couldn't seem to advance past friendly classmates. Maybe it was the way Bakugou phrased the question, smooth in Todoroki's drunken mind and made with every intention to help. Maybe it was Bakugou's long, pale throat that moved with every gulp of beer he took, or the way Bakugou smiled with a mouth full of teeth, dangerous and jagged, or the way his red eyes reflected the yellow glow of the cheap butt lamp on the nightstand and made it seem like Bakugou wanted him. Maybe it was his last line that got him hook, line, sinker. Come on, I'll even let you call me Midoriya. No, Izuku. Todoroki wakes up with a necklace of bruises on his collarbone and one hell of a hangover. He forgets a lot of what happened last night, but he doesn't forget that he lost his virginity to his roommate. And one thing he won't ever forget, from the lack of pain in his butt, Bakugou bottomed. Oh my god. Bakugou, what happened? Black Eye screams when she sees the bruises and Bakugou's limp. Baku bro. Soy sauce face hoots. Get some. Stop, he says. Just stop. Mabioi. Pikachu cups his hands around his mouth. Do he got the booty? Oh. Don't you if you dare. He do. Everybody within a 15-foot radius turns and snickers. Fall into a shithole and die. Todoroki can't say for sure that he regretted having SEC with his roommate. In fact, since then he's managed to talk with Midoriya more and even succeeded in becoming friends with him. They began walking to their shared English class together, sometimes even grabbing a meal afterwards. They visited each other's dorms in the morning to grab breakfast, and Todoroki is glad Bakugou has classes then because 1. He will never stop teasing him about how now Todoroki has the ability to wake up early, and 2. He won't be there to scare Midoriya off with his grumpy face. They shared poems. Midoriya, for the ball of sunshine he was, wrote the most depressing sheet, and exchanged short stories. Midoriya once gave him a 4-page critique on his 10-page short story. They texted in the middle of the night about Todoroki's sheet dad. He's always trying to set me up with girls, Todoroki once said. But I don't like any of them. Or any girls, for that matter. And you know Midoriya says? Oh, well I hope that you find your significant other one day. I believe in you. And about Midoriya's latest favorite anime. Right now it's Boku no Hero Academia, but his all-time favorite is Neon Genesis Evangelion, and other shit like that. Todoroki thinks that the SEC might have been magical by how far he's progressed since then. Except, Midoriya never notices. Todoroki touches his shoulder, brushes a stray hair from his cheek, leads him on a path with a hand on his back, and to Midoriya, probably, they're all just friendly gestures. Sometimes, Todoroki thinks that Midoriya is too innocent and he is just the nasty old man trying to make moves on him. Because if Todoroki is as dense as a rock, Midoriya is a FANG cement brick. One time when they're chatting over breakfast, Todoroki reaches up with a napkin to wipe away a crumb stuck on Midoriya's cheek. Midoriya, without missing a beat, thanks him and continues on talking about whatever theatrical genius the director of Summer Wars pulled. Bakugou tells him to lick it off next time. Todoroki wonders why his life is so hard. Another time when they were discussing the themes of 1984, Todoroki, in a moment of butter-like smoothness, one of his greatest achievements, directs the conversation to that of the themes of love in the novel. Midoriya mentions, "It's really sweet before they get captured when Julia and Winston actually fall in love with each other," and Todoroki practically hears the unsaid, "I wish I had someone like that." But instead of addressing that unspoken statement, Todoroki stares at him for a few seconds before humming his agreement. Later, he goes to Bakugou for a quickie. Honestly, Bakugou says from where he's laid out on the bed, naked and sweaty, "I might as well tell him for you if you never make a move." Todoroki doesn't even look up. Speaking of Bakugou, he's maintained a friends with benefits sort of relationship with him. He was good for forgets EC when Midoriya, once again, obliviously cast him in the friend zone. Bakugou was just happy he got section. Bakugou was also kind of good for his advice, but Todoroki felt that his methods, grab the fucker and kiss him, were a little too aggressive for his tastes, and that's why you're not getting anywhere. Bakugou rolls his eyes. Sometimes, Todoroki wonders why the hell Bakugou is so invested in their relationship, anyway. Maybe it's entertainment for him. Then he figures that Bakugou being supportive but nosy is better than Bakugou being a complete JRK and trying to tear them apart. "Bakugou, do you think my thing with Midoriya will really work out?" Todoroki asks one day as Bakugou is reapplying his eyeliner after he accidentally smudged it again. "What the F, these effing cat eyes are hard as sheet." Todoroki doesn't understand how someone who applies eye makeup can call him obviously gay. "Don't break my concentration, half and half." Bakugou snaps and takes another few seconds to smooth over the wing with the black gel liner. I don't FNG know, maybe not." Todoroki watches as he removes the tape he uses to draw wings, sharp enough to cut a beach. "Maybe the chances would be higher if you would actually take my FING advice, but then again, what am I? Handy love guru? What the hell do I know?" He picks up the foundation and covers his scar. Bakugou turns to examine his eyes once more. On the bed behind him, Todoroki mulls over his relationship. They both figure, Bakugou with his makeup and Todoroki with his one-sided love, that this is as good as it's going to get. Satisfied, Bakugou places the liner back in its case with a snap. Todoroki is right. At least, for the rest of freshman year. He and Midoriya remained friends. He and Bakugou continued to bang because he and Midoriya are still friends. Just friends. Bakugou continued to be a love guru whose advice he never took. "If you never take my advice," Bakugou complains. "Why the F don't you cry about your unfulfilled Midoriya fantasies to your other friends?" Todoroki stops to think for a second and then the realization hits like a cement brick. He has no other friends. Other than Midoriya and Bakugou, dubiously, all Todoroki has are a handful of acquaintances who aren't very suitable people he can trust with his dilemma. "What about your friends?" he asks instead. "I have no friends," he snorts. Unlike Todoroki, Bakugou apparently has no problem admitting it. "You think I'm your friend? Beach please?" Todoroki thinks that someone who has cared for him when he was sick, killed spiders for him, helped him with his homework problems, cooked edible meals for him when the cafeteria food SED but advised him with his love life, and knew his body more intimately than anyone else did is classified as a friend, if not even more. Maybe he needs to reread his Relationships for Dummies book. But then again, it's also plausible that Bakugou's relationship metric system is a bit different from most people's. In fact, Todoroki clearly remembers him hanging out with the same group of people multiple times. Bakugou even gave them pet names, brought them over to the dorms, and went drinking with them. Well, Bakugou also calls them all beaches and fuckers and whatever creative insult he can think of, but Todoroki thinks they're Bakugou's terms of endearment. "Come to think of it," Bakugou says offhandedly, "I've heard some things about this Midoriya kid." "Like what?" Todoroki is sure that it's all praise. Stuff like, "How'd he get in? He's weird, annoying." Bakugou ticks off. "Creepy duh." Todoroki's knuckles whiten around his pencil. Midoriya looks around with wonder because he is eager to learn. He is more observant, kinder, and smarter than any of those other of us. Useless stuff. Pathetic, Suicidal? Other sheet like that? Sniff. Who the F said that? He whispers. The two halves of pencil fall on the ground. Bakugou doesn't respond immediately. Who? Bakugou sighs. Almost everybody, he responds. Look, I don't know Midoriya. I haven't even met the fucker for Christ's sake. I'm just saying that people say shit that might or might not be true. Todoroki is breathing hard, hair shadowing his eyes, fists tight. There was no way, someone as sweet as Midoriya, someone so wonderful has no friends. For once, Bakugou shuts his mouth and leaves him to steam. Bakugou never mentions it again. Todoroki, out of stubbornness or God knows what, doesn't find out why and doesn't want to find out why people call Midoriya what they call him. As far as he knows, everyone's an a-hole and no one deserves Midoriya. Midoriya, for all their heart-to-heart, doesn't say shit. But Todoroki sees it now. Nobody approaches him when he walks with Midoriya. All the girls that used to fight over him turn away and whisper when they see Midoriya. People in their English class roll their eyes when Midoriya answers a question and huff, annoyed, when Midoriya mumbles endearingly. Midoriya's roommate is always absent. When Todoroki sees Midoriya, there is a bubble around him. He sits at the library, eats at restaurants, walks to his dorm, all alone. And Todoroki, for the life of him, cannot figure out why. If even a jackass like Bakugou could make friends, why did people seem to be repelled by Midoriya? He doesn't have sophomore year to figure it out, though. Hello. It's been a while since his sister called. Shuto, mom's in the hospital. Breathe in. She's okay though. Breathe out. The damage isn't all physical. His face hurts where the burn is. I'm going to need you to come home to take care of her, probably for the next 6 months or so, Fuyumi continues. I'm so sorry, Shuto, I would go but I'm in Afghanistan right now on a mission. I can't leave. Please. Hey, he says. Midoriya would have to wait. Okay. For how much Todoroki runs his mouth, he says nothing to anyone for a long time about it. Somehow, he never says the most important things when he has to. You're FNG leaving for almost all of sophomore year? What the F dash? My mom needs me, is what Todoroki responds with, his back to his roommate as he stuffs all his shit in a suitcase. Bakugou shakes his head. Whatever, do whatever the hell you want. The pause. Does Midoriya know about this? I have to leave right away, he says instead. Bakugou huffs, clearly itching to say something, probably more love advice, but instead keeps his mouth shut. He's been doing that more ever since he told Todoroki about the rumors. One last thing, Bakugou, he looks up. Take care of Izuku for me. His mom is sitting in the chair meant for visitors, back turned to the door, looking out the window. The light from outside falls across her form, casting her shadow on the floor. Shuto thinks that if he weren't here, she would have sat there until her shadow got longer and longer and longer. Mom, he says, and the word sticks in his throat for a bit. He gently closes the door behind him as she finally turns around and sees him for the first time in a long time. Shuto, she breathes. You've gotten so much bigger. Shuto wants to say yes, that's what happens when people get older, but figures that some people don't get bigger. Some people just kind of fade away. So he says yes instead and moves to sit on the unoccupied bed. She gets up from her seat and floats over to sit next to him, a foot of distance between them. Shuto looks over at the window to see just what his mom was looking at before he had come in. What the hell, he thinks? It's just an empty courtyard. His mom had been in the hospital for a variety of times for a variety of reasons. One of the first times he can remember is when she had to get a double mastectomy. He was 5 when he went to the hospital all by himself to visit her. His dad had some business meeting. He brought her some flowers and a drawing he made in school, a crude piece of cereal with the word, "Get batter, mammy," scrawled on it in crayon, but she must have thought it was the sweetest thing ever because she'd smiled and ruffled his hair and said, "You're such a good boy, Shuto." The next few times, Shuto remembers that he didn't understand why she was always so hurt or so sick. "Don't think about your mother, Shuto," his father had said. "Focus on your studies." Shuto understands why she was in the hospital so much now. The one time he won't ever forget, though, was because of what happened in the kitchen one day. She had been on the phone whispering. Shudo couldn't really hear what she was saying, but he figured it was about buying shoes or something. His dad didn't like it when his mom spent too much money. After she hung up, she looked outside the kitchen window for a long time, so long that the water pot she used to make tea started screaming, but she didn't even look up. "Mommy?" he said timidly, shuffling from his spot outside the door. "Shudo," she said, not turning her back. "Could you get the kettle for me?" His mom had never sounded so distant before, but Shudo wanted to help, so he didn't say squat and did as he was told. Except, his 5-year-old legs were much too short to reach the top of the stove. He didn't want to ask for help, so he reached a little further and swiped at the kettle. It teetered but remained rooted where it was. Swipe, teeter, swipe, teeter. Eventually, his mom must have gotten fed up with how long he was taking because she came over. Swipe, teeter. She gripped the handle of the kettle, but instead of picking it up, she tilted it and let the boiling water fall. Shudo remembers looking up, seeing the water head towards his left eye. He remembers the pain, so searing hot it hissed as it made contact with his skin. He remembers crying and how his tears mixed in with the water. But what he doesn't remember, no matter how hard he tries to, is the look on his mother's face when it happened. But he can imagine. "Shudo," his mother said, voice blank of any worry or emotion. "You silly boy, you tipped the kettle water all over your eye. Now look at what you've done." "What? I wasn't. Your father is going to be upset you marred your face." "Mom," he managed to croak, hands over his eye in an attempt to alleviate the pain. "Let's get you to the hospital," she tugged him up. "Remember, son, I didn't do any of this." 5 years old and a bandage around his eye. "Shudo!" his father shouted. What have you done?" There was a lot of things Shudo wanted to say. "It wasn't me, I'm sorry, it wasn't my fault." But then he remembered his mother's words and got confused. "Did I do this to myself?" He looked over to his mother sitting quietly on the couch, but she didn't speak, didn't move. Unable to muster up an answer, he stared down with his one eye at the floor so he wouldn't see his father's hand flying towards his face. "You're already 5, he shouted at his son, unmoving on the floor. "I can't have you harming yourself all the time. Think about what people will say when you get older. You are stuck with that scar for the rest of your life." 5 years old and his father beat him for the first time. You could say 5 was a transformative year for him. That night, as he was lying in bed, bruises all over his skin and a burn on his face, his mom came into his room. At first, he thought she was just going to stand there and not say anything. After all, she'd been kind of quiet the whole day. But instead, she ran as silently as she could to the side of his bed and cradled his face. "Shudo," she whispered, her voice cracking, her hands shaking from where they were on his cheeks. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Shudo looked up, surprised to see tears welling up in her eyes. Was she sorry that he was stupid enough to burn himself? Or was she sorry that his father had beat him because he burned himself? It never crossed his mind that she was apologizing for something else. Since then, his mom had been more protective of him. Since then, his dad had begun to show his affection towards his mom more openly. Affection meaning yelling, slapping, throwing things. But Shudo's mom smiled through it all, when she was pushed to the ground, when she was insulted, when she kneeled down to caress Shudo's hair, so he thought that maybe his dad was doing something right. Shudo tried it out one time on a girl he had a crush on in school. "You look like sheet, get the F out of my face" speech. She ran away crying. The teachers scolded him heavily. "What have your parents told you about being respectable?" Shudo thought back to the interactions between his parents. He didn't understand what the teachers had meant. Then, he witnessed in live time how his mother's smile broke as she cried in front of his father after he had hit her and yelled, "You look like sheet, beach, get out of here." He thought, that's what they meant. It is much later when it dawns on him. It is much later, when he sees his mom's smile from her spot on the hospital bed, through the faint wrinkles on her fadingly pretty face, through his dad's heavy hand, through her tears, that Shudo understands. His mom's smile was never meant to show weakness. Shudo is 10 when his father first tries to set him up with a girl. Momo is nice enough. She's smart and quiet and doesn't force him to do anything he doesn't want to. His dad tells him she's the kid of the CEO of Yaoyorozu Incorporated, but Shudo doesn't understand how that has any significance. Shudo tells her straight away that he has no intention of being romantically involved with her. He is relieved when she just nods and accepts. Eventually, he and Momo are comfortable enough that Momo stops shying away from him. One time, she playfully hits him on the arm. It was light, but Shudo was so surprised he almost stumbled over. He thinks back to his parents, back to his dad's hits. He pushes Momo a little harder. She laughs and nudges him back. He punches Momo in the face. "Shudo," she cries, holding her face, tears rising in her eyes. Shudo stares at his hand. "Sorry," he says. "I'm so sorry, Momo. I didn't mean to." Momo's dad is appalled by what happened and takes her away to care for her. Shudo's dad hits him for being too violent with a lady. "Son," his father thumps him heavily on his back. "It's time you learn about starting to take over the Todoroki business." Shudo he doesn't know what the Todoroki business is or what it does, but he doesn't want to take part in it regardless. He doesn't say no. Todoroki NG of Todoroki LP spends the next 3 hours doing a mixture of teaching Shudo the basics of risk management, gloating over his achievements, and talking about the honor of the Todoroki bloodline. What is this, Harry Potter? Shudo thinks. Shudo, he puts a hand on his shoulder in a gesture of seemingly fatherly love. "You are my masterpiece. You are perfect." Shudo imagines that's supposed to boost his confidence or something, but it has the opposite effect instead. He sees Fuyumi so rarely sometimes he forgets he has a sister who is more than a decade older than him. She is a spitting image of their mother, and when Fuyumi hugs her, Shudo thinks that they look like a pair of sisters. She stops in front of him and looks him up and down. "Shudo, you look like your father, so handsome." They hug and Shudo feels like he's hugging a stranger, her muscles firm underneath her army uniform. Shudo doesn't feel handsome at all. In fact, he prefers if he looked more like Fuyumi. Fuyumi stays for 2 days. During the whole time, Shudo's father doesn't say anything to her. In fact, he seems dead set on ignoring her. When it's time for her to go, "Duty calls," she says. Shudo feels sad even though he's only known her for small mouthfuls of time. She turns around right before she goes out the door. "Mom, Shudo." She smiles and hugs both of them again. She looks behind Shudo and she and their father make eye contact for the first time in her whole visit. "Dad," she acknowledges. "Get the F out of my house," he responds. "You are not my daughter. You are a failure. A failure who joined the army instead of doing something useful with your life. Get out." She tightens her lips and gets out. His father puts his hand on his shoulder. "Don't be like her. You're better than that, Shudo." But Shudo doesn't feel above her at all. He feels jealous of her. Shudo dyes his hair half red and half white. He thinks it resembles his parents' relationship in how ugly it is. His father beats him and tells him to keep his hair black when the dye fades away. His father sends him to UA Military University because it's the best and nothing but the best for my son, even though he grumbles a bit over how a quarter of its graduates became army men. The day before he leaves to attend the ceremony for recommended students, his mother visits his room late at night when he is finishing up putting all his sheet in his suitcase. "Shudo," she cups his face like she did all those years ago. It takes her a while to open her mouth and speak. Shudo thinks that she's trying to figure out what would be the best parting words. Then she smiles through all her tears. "Have fun, all right? Don't worry about your poor old mother." That only made him worry even more. Shudo's gotten used to driving around when he's got a lot on his mind. After his mom left him her parting gift, he goes down to the garage and gets in his car, hating how comfortable the expensive seat cushions felt. He backs out of the driveway, out of his neighborhood full of rich, spoiled kids and their rotten dads, and drives. He doesn't think about his dad, his sister, his future, his mom. He doesn't think about where he's going, only that it's away from here. He feels the wind in his hair, watches the moon high up in the sky, and lets time pass. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It's 1 a.m. and Shudo is in a dilapidated part of town fit to be called a hood. He decides that it's late enough to go back home when he sees, out of the corner of his eyes, a flash of blonde laying on the sidewalk. He stops and gets out of his car and sees that it's a person, a bunch of books strewn around him and injuries all over his body. A large knife slash on his cheek, a sheet ton of bruises, and is that eyeliner on his face? Guy looked like sheet. Shudo has nothing better to do, so he lifts the guy up, holy sheet, he is heavy, and dumps him in the back seat. What the F dash, he hears from the back. You're awake, he says. I found you passed out on the side of the road. He hears the guy mutter something like, oh yeah, F those assholes. You're injured. I'm taking you to my house so I can treat you. The guy snorts. F no, you shady bastard. Just drop me off somewhere. Shudo would have argued, but 1, he is tired and this guy looks hard to deal with, and 2, he had picked this guy up on a whim. He could let him go on a whim. So he shrugs, suit yourself, and drops him off on a more lit sidewalk. When he gets back, he sees his mom sleeping on the couch again as he dad takes up the entire MSTR bed. He carries her to his own bed and marvels at how light she is compared to the punk he struggled to lift to his car. He smooths her bangs out, feeling like he's the parent and she's the child, and sighs. Home sweet home. Bakugou Katsuki is his name. Shudo sees how irritated he looks when he tells him that he got in with official recommendations. He thinks back to the last week, to the books strewn around the blonde on the sidewalk, and realizes that this punk was up studying his butt off to get into this school when he just had to flash around his last name. A new wave of hate for his dad surged through him and Shudo tries to suppress it. The guy scoffs, whatever, a healthy. Todoroki Shudo, he introduces himself. Not healthy. This guy isn't, but he thinks. But he's infinitely better than some other people I know. When it comes to declare majors, Todoroki puts down environmental science because 1, he can spite his father by putting down anything else other than financial engineering or quantitative analysis, and 2, his mother always smiled when he brought her flowers in the hospital. Midoriya Izuku is his name. Well, Todoroki discovers Midoriya's first name a month later, but that doesn't matter. Todoroki meets Izuku in English class and he is an angel. Good morning, Todoroki, he beams. His face is smooth of any blemishes, like, let's say, a big butt burn that covers a quarter of his face, and Todoroki can count every freckle on his tan face. He has 67 of them. Play cool, play cool. Morning, he says quietly, face as still as stone. Excellent. Midoriya, if possible, shines even brighter when he gets a response. He's never had anyone shoot him a smile like that before. His name is Midoriya Izuku and he's amazing, Todoroki thinks. Midoriya's notes are meticulously crafted and detailed. Midoriya wears the same pair of red JS every day. Midoriya has a head full of dark, green-tinted locks that he liked to brush back every time he bent his head down to write. Midoriya has the cutest smile and once smiled at him when he picked up his eraser and also one time. Shut up, Bakugou says from his desk, and oh, did he just say all of that out loud? Have you ever even interacted with this Midoriya? He tells Bakugou the eraser story again, and Bakugou does that thing he does when he's really annoyed and pinches his forehead with his fingers and sighs. Do you even know his first name? Todoroki doesn't say anything. Yeah, that's what I FNG thought, you pathetic sheet. Todoroki is awake in the middle of the night and Bakugou is asleep like a log. His car isn't on campus, but he's gotten into the habit of moving when he can't fall asleep, so he pulls the covers off, gets out of his crappy university bed, and pads to the doorway. He feels like he's searching for something, but he can't quite put his finger on it. He walks along the path to the library, not intending to really do any reading, but just because it was the longest route. The campus is quiet, the sky is dark, the stars are dim, his breath frosts in the air. As expected, no one is awake at 4 a.m. Who would be? Todoroki, good evening. Apparently Midoriya would, and Todoroki nearly jumps out of his skin. Midoriya looks oddly out of breath, bags under his eyes, walking sluggishly. Maybe Todoroki didn't notice him because he thought he was a FING zombie, not a person. Midoriya, what are you doing up so late? Oh, I was studying chemistry, Midoriya said sheepishly, scratching the back of his head. Todoroki tilted his head. You don't take chem? Just thought it'd be interesting. But, if you don't mind me asking, Todoroki, why are you up so late? Duddits? Todoroki bites the inside of his cheek. I couldn't sleep. Oh, I get that too. Well, I hope you feel better soon, Todoroki. Don't stay up too late. With that, Midoriya shoots him another smile and rushes past him, leaving Todoroki to look at his back. He ends up pulling an all-night. It takes 2 weeks of continuous run-ins with Midoriya, 3 of which happened in the dead of night, for Todoroki to figure it out. He could be having a good day, when Bakugou was being less obnoxious and he managed to get a full night's sleep, and seeing Midoriya would make it better. But it was when he was having a bad day, when there was a lot crushing on his mind, that seeing Midoriya in the hallway, in the library, in class, somehow made all the difference. Unconsciously or not, he would search for it, sometimes as seen before, in the middle of the goddamn night. It was Midoriya's smile, unlike his mother's, unlike his sheet dad's. It said he was happy to see him. Him, a piece of sheet. But Midoriya must have had a boatload of smiles, because he continued to give him one every time they happened to meet. If only he knew how his smile had become Todoroki's hero. If only he knew how he had saved Todoroki. Shuto, someone drapes over his arm. Why are you always so busy? You never have time for us anymore. Todoroki can't remember when he ever hung out with this girl, nor does he remember ever telling her his name. Todoroki is busy wondering why the hell this thing is on his arm, so she mistakenly construes his silence as tacit agreement. Then he sees Midoriya. Great, an escape. He moves to wave him over, but Midoriya looks at him quickly and then ducks away. Todoroki doesn't know why, and he immediately goes over his relationships for dummies checklist. Is his hair messed up? Is there something in his teeth? Did he sound too mean when he called him over? He failed to notice the absolutely nasty look the girl latched on his arm had shot at the poor boy. Todoroki is sitting on his bed, thinking about what happened and just about Midoriya in general. Oh my god, Bakugou groans from his desk. Oh, was he speaking out loud again? Yes. Some of us actually have work to do, Bakugou hisses. Which means, I don't have time to effing listen to you spout shit all the time. Sorry, Bakugou. Bakugou rolls his eyes. Shut the F up and just admit you're in love with Midoriya already. Wait, what? Yeah, don't think I don't know, you're a sheet liar, Halfie. I wasn't lying. Bakugou stares at him for a long time, and for a second, Todoroki thinks that he'll just give up, but Bakugou never makes things easy. Midoriya is literally all you talk about. You hang out with him almost every FING day. Hell, you see him more than you see me. You've been moping around for an hour wondering if he didn't come say hike because your breath smelled. And you dare tell me I'm wrong. Fucker. Bakugou turns his back to him and starts scribbling in his notebook furiously, ending the discussion. Todoroki mulls over his words for a few minutes before it dawns on him. Bakugou is right. Damn straight I am. Turns out Bakugou actually has a lot of time to listen to Todoroki spout shit. He even takes it upon himself to act as Todoroki's personal love guru. And even though Todoroki never takes his advice, Todoroki learns a lot of things about him. 1. Bakugou is right, and 2. Bakugou is left. Discovery number 1 makes its appearance all the time. Bakugou is right about Todoroki's SXL orientation, about why his relationship with Midoriya has hit a plateau, about the answers on the chem test. Discovery number 2 is a direct result from discovery #it happens when the two of them are getting drunk in their dorm after midterms. Bakugou asks about Midoriya and what he wants to do with him, and Todoroki's answer has never been so clear. But the thing is, Midoriya doesn't seem to want him, but Bakugou does. Midoriya isn't there, but Bakugou is. Bakugou is left. Bakugou's good-looking, not in that angelic way Midoriya is, but who is Todoroki to pick and choose? He takes what he can get. Todoroki learns things from Bakugou too. 1. That he, Todoroki, is gay, and 2. That Midoriya is not perfect. Discovery number 1 is pretty much a given. Todoroki thinks it's because he fell in love with Midoriya, who is a boy. Bakugou thinks it's because Todoroki has a FING stupid hairstyle. Todoroki really doesn't understand how hair has anything to do with SXL orientation, but he chooses not to comment. Discovery number 2 feels like a lie when he first heard the rumors from Bakugou's mouth. It is utterly unthinkable, impossible that Midoriya is anything but the perfect angel Todoroki made him out to be. Bakugou thinks that hair has something to do with SXL orientation, so who was he to assume anything about anyone? Todoroki ignores all those times Bakugou was right about him and other people. He ignores how Bakugou is basically the smartest kid in their whole grade. So he snaps his pencils and refuses to believe it, even though after the conversation he begins to see the hard evidence everywhere around him. Say it 5 times fast and it's true, right? Bakugou quips and then takes his own advice and shuts the F up when Todoroki shoots him a glare. Discovery number 2 feels like a lie, but it's FING true. Todoroki will later find out and accept. But freshman year, when he is surrounded by proof but also by the shining beacon that is Midoriya, he cannot decide which is the truth. Midoriya's smile or everyone else's frowns. It wasn't a hard decision to make. Fuyumi calls him and tells Todoroki that he has to leave for all of his sophomore year to care for his mother. Todoroki feels a sort of odd, yet justifiable annoyance rise up in his He is Midoriya, now. He is finally somewhat happy and now he has to dive back into what made him so. But then he thinks of his mother, of her sad little acceptance when she let him go to UA and leave her all alone. With his dad. He instantly feels guilty. Okay, he says into the speaker. Okay. So here he is, one hand on his mother's back, the other tilting a cool glass of water into her mouth. It is the dead of the night and Todoroki is caring for his mother after she woke up screaming. Shuto, she smiles softly with cracked lips. You're such a good boy. Go to sleep, Mum. He lays her down on the bed, slowly, gently. They don't talk about his dad and her husband. They don't talk about her suicide attempt. Not yet. Todoroki turns off the lights, closes the door behind him, and sighs. It is 1 a.m. here but it is 9 p.m. in Afghanistan, so he supposes that's why Fuyumi chooses to Skype him now of all times. Hey, sorry about the time. Her face appears on his phone screen, the only bright thing in his room. I finally got some free time so I figured I'd check up on you. I'm surprised you're still awake, Fuyumi says. Did Mom have another nightmare? He nods. They talk for a while, not about Mom or Dad, but about Fuyumi's mission, which is confidential so they can't really say much, anyway, about what UA was like, about what friends he's made. I've made 2, he says, thinking about Bakugou and Midoriya. They're not interesting. Fuyumi laughs and Todoroki feels himself relax into the conversation. It's 3 a.m. where Todoroki is and 11 p.m. where Fuyumi is and they both figure that it's late enough. It seems like you're doing just fine. Take care of Mom, alright? Alright, he promises sleepily and moves to end the call. Oh Shuto, she says. I didn't tell you this before, but your smile looks a lot like Mom's. When Todoroki ends the call, his sleepiness is gone. He stares up at his ceiling and strains to listen to his mom's even breathing in the room next door. He counts her breaths in time with the sound of the clock ticking away as time passed. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Midoriya Izuku was boring. If he were a bagel, he'd be plain. If he were an ice cream flavor, he'd be vanilla. The special talent section was always sold out when he got there and the only personalities they had left was loser and wimp, so he got both because it was a 2-for-1 deal. But at least this boring sack of potatoes could help serve to relieve the boredom of other people's lives. Izuku is stupid, Izuku is stupid, the boys in his neighborhood chanted and threw rocks at him. Sticks and stones can break his bones, and words hurt him too. Did it make him feel like shit? Hell yeah, it did. But then it always turned around. We need another player for football, let's get Izuku. My mom says I can only go in the woods with a group of more than 4, let's get Izuku. I need someone to test my skills against, where's Izuku? The world was playing with his heart. Mom, the neighborhood kids called me to play, can I? Mama Midoriya, by comparison, clearly saw how nasty her son was being treated. But seeing her Izuku, so happy to be needed, broke her and she didn't have the heart to tell him. Izuku gets his first scar on the back of his neck during what he calls the fall. He and the neighborhood boys are exploring the forest. There's a creek that runs down the middle and in order to cross over it, they had to walk across the trunk of a fallen tree. For a forest creek, the thing runs pretty deep, kind of like a ravine, and it's no wonder most parents forbid their children from crossing a log raised 30 feet in the air. And most children, like children do, are brave little brats and don't give a shit about what their parents say. Izuku was not most children. Izuku, don't chicken out now. The other boys call from the other side of the creek as he stands shaking. Hurry up or we're gonna throw rocks. Children are dumb, see. They play this game and think throwing rocks gets a person to hurry the hell up, but getting injured, believe it or not, makes it harder to move. But the threat. That makes Izuku hurry the hell up. He's already shaking like a leaf before he steps on the log, so once his little 5-year-old feet makes contact with the wood, he wobbles and slips off the side, landing with a loud splash in the creek. Water floods his nose and he comes up sputtering. His legs hurt. His lungs hurt. He was going through emotional and physical shock. Unexpectedly free-falling 30 feet tends to have that effect on a person's body. Izuku, are you okay? Someone calls 30 feet above his head. He'll live, someone else responds. We're going ahead, Kay? Footsteps. Oh, Kay. He wheezes, but by that time, everyone had left. 30 feet and a blue water landing had hurt like hell. Izuku promises himself to never again do anything that could have him falling through the air for more than a few seconds, trying to grasp onto something but coming up with nothing, crashing into the earth. He breaks that promise pretty soon. Izuku's mom makes killer fairy cakes. They're nothing fancy, light sponge cakes with a vanilla glaze and a couple of sprinkles. Actually, when Izuku thinks back to it, they probably didn't taste that great either, but they're his mom's baking creations and something about moms just always seemed magical. On his 6th birthday, Izuku can smell the cakes before they come out of the oven and he's so excited he sprints through the house and onto the clean tiled floor of the kitchen, and if anyone knows anything about kitchen floors, it's that they are slippery as F-. He hops a little, scrambles to regain his balance, and slips, eating a big chunk of floor instead of cake. He gets his 2nd scar like this. Izuku, are you okay? His mom crouches beside him and helps him up, reaching around to get the first aid kit. Oh, Kay. He wheezes as his mom treats the cut below his ear. He looks around, wincing when the alcohol-soaked cotton ball touched his cut. Mom, where are the other kids? She pauses. Oh, Izuku, honey. I'm sorry, some of them had last-minute things to do and couldn't make it. Today will just be you and mommy, okay? Okay, he agrees easily. He's a bit upset, but it's hard to stay that way when there's fairy cake involved. He gets his 3rd scar when he tries to cut a cake in half and accidentally shanks himself with a butter knife. Without telling his mom, he brings some leftover cake to the boys who couldn't make his party. How'd you get that scar, Izuku? Oh, I tripped and fell. He confesses and scratches at the one on the back of his neck sheepishly. No way, again Izuku, they laugh. Why are you so dumb? He says. Oh, I have some cake from my birthday here. Thanks, Izuku. Sorry I couldn't make it, by the way, didn't really want to come. They bite into the cake. This is really good. Izuku bites at his lip and forces himself to smile. No problem. I hope you can come next year. They're already gone. Middle school passes like this. Izuku alone at class, at school events, in the library, in after-school clubs. High school passes in much the same way but with a few defining moments. Moment number 1 comes in the beginning. Izuku falls in love with some girl in his class. Her name's Hagakure. She's not very popular. In fact, most of their classmates didn't really seem to notice her. He thinks it's a pretty sweet deal. No competition, no sense of feeling out of her league. He can ask her out and they'll be pretty happy together. Hagakure, he calls after class as she's walking away. Hagakure's pretty dim and fast, and he has to do his little scramble run to catch up to her. He immediately regrets having the scramble run as his fastest mode of non-vehicle transportation because, 1, it looks absolutely ridiculous, and 2, it has a 50-50 success rate. Failure meant face-planting into the dirt. And during this crucial, memorable, defining moment in his teenage years, the moment of mustering up the courage to confess to a girl, what does he do? He face-plants into the dirt. Oh my god, Izuku. Are you okay? Hagakure turns around to help him and well, at least he got her to stop walking. Oh, Kay, he wheezes. He's way too embarrassed to lift his face from the dirt, much less confess to her, so he lets her make sure he's actually okay before leaving. He sits up and face-palms his dirty, already throbbing face, wondering why life is so hard. Moment number 2 comes in the form of high school career surveys. What do you want to be? How about you, Midoriya? A doctor or a soldier, you say? I want to be useful, he replies, and everyone around him smiles and laughs. I'm bored, a classmate whines as he's packing up to go home. Hey, Izuku, you want to be useful, right? He nods. Go jump off the building then. Do a flip and pray you'll be more useful in your next life. He just instigated suicide, Izuku thinks. Think before you speak. I have to do something. Was all his stupid mouth could say. Did friends seriously tell each other to die? He had to do something. So he did. He jumped. By some FANG miracle, he emerged alive but with 2 gash-like scars on 2 broken arms. What were you thinking? His mother sobbed into the hospital bed sheets. When she asked, he didn't really know. It took a long time before he understood why himself. No one except his mother visited him in the hospital, so he spent most of his time watching TV. On anime, Neon Genesis Evangelion in particular. He watched as Shinji was labeled as a coward who was only useful when he piloted the Evangelion. Sometimes, he didn't even want to pilot, choosing his own feelings over the world. Izuku thought Shinji was really pathetic. And so, high school passes like this. Izuku alone at class, at school events, at parties, in the library, in after-school clubs. Izuku alone in his neighborhood, in his room, on the couch, at home. Mom, I don't, he says one day from his spot in front of the TV, not really paying attention to the sitcom. He says this not because he has something to say but because he has to say something. I don't know what to do with my life. Well, if there's one thing he learned from the last incident, it's, at least don't jump off a building. Oh Izuku, his mom drops the bowl of mashed potatoes and hugs him. Izuku can tell, from the cushion of her belly and the weight of her arms, that she's been stress-eating again. I'm so sorry, she sobs like she's the one who doesn't know what to do with herself. Keep trying. There's probably a meme somewhere, when I don't expect anything but am still disappointed. He didn't expect much advice, but he's still disappointed. His life changed when he met Toshinori Yagi, All Might, one of the greatest Japanese-American army generals in history. Well, okay, so he doesn't really meet him personally. Toshinori was recruiting for the UA Military University, so he was speaking to the whole Diamond High School about applying. Yes? What is it, my boy? Toshinori asked when Midoriya asked to talk to him in private. I'm just asking for a friend, but, if, let's say, he nervously liked his lips. Let's say someone has no special talents, is not very athletic or naturally smart. Can he still get into UA? Toshinori didn't say anything for a while and Midoriya felt his heart deflate. It's okay, it wasn't like he was expecting much anyway. He jumped when Toshinori's hand fell heavy on his shoulder. I sincerely doubt that, but how about you apply and see what happens? Midoriya didn't even correct him that it's his friends who has this issue, not him. Summer before university, Midoriya fell in love. He worked his butt off for entrance exams and came to the UA testing center looking like he only got 1 hour of sleep because that's exactly happened. He looked around, clean, proper, muscled teens everywhere. He had never seen a room filled with so many perfect people. The door opened and the last person to arrive entered and Midoriya's eyes just about fell out of his skull. Matted ash blonde hair, bruises on every uncovered inch of skin, a white bandage under his eye and on his cheek. The guy was chock full of scars. He must have noticed people looking because he barked out, "The F are you staring at, huh?" And everyone hurriedly turned their attention elsewhere. Later, he hears that the dude was jumped 2 nights ago, and where any normal punk might have gotten killed, he actually fought them off. If that wasn't badass, Midoriya didn't know what the hell was. The guy was a force to be reckoned with. 15 minutes before the timer went off to signal the end of the written test, he handed it in, the first one done. During the push-up test, he was the last one on the ground. Pump, pump, pump until the proctor figured he was strong enough, so just stop, okay? The mile run, 6 minutes 47 seconds, and this was the guy who limped through the doorway. Midoriya barely made it under 9 minutes, arms weak, legs spaghetti, and that's a record for him. This guy, no doubt, was amazing. He was everything Midoriya wasn't. Another FANG miracle and Midoriya is at the UA opening ceremony for those who tested in. In the acceptance letter, it said something about his relentless drive and spirit, so he figured they must have seen how pathetic he was and took pity on him. The teacher, "Call me Midnight," she winked, yelled for the freshman representative to take the stage. Bakugou Katsuki. Midoriya practically glowed with admiration for the beat-up guy, looking significantly more healed, now, stalking up the stage to give a brief, blunt speech that basically summed up to, "I'm going to be number one." Everyone around him jeered and shouted, but Midoriya didn't once doubt his words. Midoriya registers as a pre-med student with a minor in English and no extra gym classes because his athletics are absolute garbage. Later, he learns that Bakugou is a chemistry major. He signs up for chemistry classes in hopes of meeting him, but ends up getting a class at a different time. He tries to stay positive. This was a new school and he could make new, real friends. What he doesn't account for, however, was that one of his childhood tormentors also got accepted into UA. "Hi, I'm Midoriya." Enthusiastic, big smile, warm handshake. All the boxes in the How to Make Friends section in his Relationships for Dummies book were checked off. His roommate looks at him, expression indiscernible, and turns away. He tries again with other people, same reaction. Did he need to reread the book? Then he understands why. Isn't that the kid who tried committing suicide in high school? I don't want to be part of that drama. How'd he even get accepted? His mumbling is so annoying. He's kinda pathetic. He stops trying to make friends. "Hi, I'm Todoroki Shudo." Enthusiastic, big smile, warm handshake. Well, Midoriya thinks he can work on the enthusiastic part a bit more. Guy had a permanent poker face. "Let's be friends." He says, stunned. Okay. Todoroki's a weird guy. Half his hair is white and half is red. On the left side of his face is a large, aged burn scar. Midoriya's arms itch in response. "How'd you get that?" Midoriya asks, because he has no sense of self-preservation. He already broke one of the rules in his Relationships for Dummies book. Good thing Todoroki has no sense of self-preservation either. "My mom," he says, then pauses. "Well, my dad." And they leave it at that. His mom demands he call her at least once a week. Midoriya doesn't complain because, 1, she used to want daily calls, and 2, this way he at least has someone to talk to. When your only son jumped off a rooftop in an effort to end his life not only a year ago, you tend to worry. "Izuku, are you sure you'll be alright?" she had fretted before he'd boarded the plane. "Do you have your toothbrush? Your handkerchief? Your allergy medicine? Clean underwear?" "Oh, what about?" "Mom, I'm fine," he had said. "Don't worry, alright?" "How can I not worry? Do you know how to properly do laundry?" "Oh, what will you eat if I'm not there to cook for you?" Her hands were a blur, wringing out at her sides, smoothing her bangs, lifting up to her face as if to check her own temperature and rising heartbeat at the thought of her baby bird leaving the nest. "Passengers will be boarding in 5 minutes. Mom, I gotta go." Okay, she'd closed her eyes. Breathed out. Opened them and looked at Izuku for the last time in possibly a long time, taking in how his hair had grown out, how tall he's grown, how his cheeks had gained more freckles, how his eyes looked a bit greener, how it seemed only like yesterday he was 5 years old and playing with action figures. "Izuku," she'd said with a watery smile. "Promise me something, okay? Promise that you'll keep on trying and smiling, okay? Don't ever think you're worth nothing because you mean the world to me, and someday, you will hold that same meaning to someone else. So don't ever scare your poor mother like that, promise me." She puts her arms around him like she did all those months ago, and Izuku, like any newborn adult who doesn't know a thing about the world except his duty to placate his mother, promises without a lot thought, "Okay." It still lays heavy on his heart, heavy like his arms around his mom, heavy like the luggage he dragged to the boarding gate, heavy like the loud hustle and bustle of the airport crowd, and like the silence of his empty dorm room. 2 months into UA, he is sitting alone on his bed, reading but not really reading. This is where reason number 2 comes in. "Izuku, you're late." His mom's voice cracks through the speaker, strained by the long distance. "Sorry," he says sheepishly, scratching his head even though he knows she can't see it. It's okay, she forgives him easily. College is getting a little hard, I know. Do you at least have friends to take you out? Maybe to take away your time calling your mother so you can have some fun. Mom, I'll always have time for you, don't worry. She laughs but presses on about friends. Yeah, I've made some, we go out sometime. He's made a couple of friends, he thinks. Okay, maybe only one. At least, he thinks Todoroki is his friend. It's pretty hard to tell when Todoroki barely responds to him and doesn't know his name. But Todoroki doesn't outright shun him, so he counts that as a win. And going out, well, technically getting out of bed to go to class and greeting someone by the door counts, right? Oh great. Izuku, I'm so proud of you, she says, like most people don't make friends all the DMN time. It's like the first time you had a playdate. You were so excited to play with those boys. Mom, he whispers, embarrassed. I'm not 5. You'll always be my baby though. Sniff. Okay, well don't let me keep you from going out with your friends. I'm going to cook some dinner. I love you, Izuku. Love you too, he says and ends the call. He shuffles to the corner of the bed, brings his knees under his chin, and stares into empty space. What's your name? Todoroki asks, finally, after a month of knowing him. Your first name? Izuku? Midoriya watches as Todoroki smiles a self-satisfactory smile, puffs, and walks away, seemingly with new purpose. When Midoriya finds out that Todoroki's roommate is Bakugou Katsuki, he almost flips his sheet, he's so excited. What's he like? Can I meet him? Todoroki thinks for a while. He's kind of an a-hole? Kind of. But enough about him, let's talk about you. Midoriya is boring, so he can't really say much. He turns it around to a discussion about the themes in What do you think about the themes of love? Todoroki asks, twirling a lock of his hair, glancing at him with eyes that suddenly started batting way too many times per minute. Midoriya wonders if a dust particle got in his eye. Midoriya thinks about Winston and Julia, how they were so happy and in love with each other, how they viewed the other as their whole world. Well, right until they got kidnapped and betrayed each other. He wants someone who would love him like that. Todoroki stares at him for an uncomfortable amount of time, hums, and looks away. In one of their heart-to-hearts over breakfast, Midoriya shows him one of his best poems. He writes whatever the hell he wants these days, just fills up 13 journals with poems, essays, class notes, and people-watching profiles. He has a whole journal dedicated to Bakugou Katsuki, information gathered from snippets of conversations and when he just happens to see him in a public space. By chance. Not that he was stalking him or anything. Midoriya thinks that the poem is a deep reflection of himself, meaning it is full of self-loathing, listlessness, and generally dull prose. Todoroki gives him one of his Todoroki stares and Midoriya thinks that maybe the poem isn't to his fancy. He hurriedly changes the topic to the brilliant directing of Summer Wars. Todoroki listens without really listening. Halfway through Midoriya's rambling, he lifts a napkin up to gently wipe away at a scone crumb on his cheek. Relationships for Dummies tells him to say thanks when someone does something nice for him. Midoriya, are your arms itchy? Todoroki asks. Want me to bring you some ointment? Oh no. Don't go through all that trouble. Midoriya brings his hands up, waving them in front of his face like he could bat away Todoroki's suggestion. It's no problem. I have some that I always use for my burn. Scars itch a lot. No, seriously. Midoriya insists and is glad he's wearing long sleeves. Just a bug bite, that's all. Todoroki's eyes fall to his arms, as if trying to unlock X-ray vision to see through Midoriya's black long sleeve. If you say so. Yeah, really it's fine. Midoriya's scratching hands move from his arms to the back of his head. He refrains from scratching his scars the whole time he's talking to Todoroki, but man, do they itch? He and Todoroki in English class. He and Todoroki at the library. He and Todoroki at the cafe. He and Todoroki in Todoroki and Bakugou's dorm. He and Todoroki where before it was only him. Todoroki is weird, but he's a good person. He walks with Izuku every chance he gets, has breakfast and lunch with him almost every day, isn't annoyed by anything he does, texts him about his personal issues, and is genuinely interested in what Izuku has to say. It's not touching, especially when Todoroki is doing all of this at the expense of his own reputation. He's cool, smart, handsome. He could be doing so much better, making friends with people better than Izuku. Midoriya expects him to be by every day, to open his two-toned eyes, to look at the girls draping themselves on his egi and the boys who stare enviously at his back, and to think, the F am I doing with this loser? Surprise, motherfucker, he's still here. Midoriya thinks that Todoroki is dense like a FING cement brick, but if he doesn't realize he could be so much better off, if he actually wants to spend time with Midoriya, then Midoriya will selfishly let him. He and Todoroki in a bubble. He and a bunch of said girls behind the dorm buildings. You think you can hang around him all the time, loser? Let me tell you this, Shudo is just too nice to tell you, so allow me, lay. The F dash. He and a bunch of bruises underneath his clothes. At least they didn't throw rocks at him. One of the givens of being accepted into UA was that almost everyone, even the chicks who just gossiped and caked their faces every day, is built. Pro tip, don't PSS anyone off. F dash, he already broke that rule. Is there anyone you like, Midoriya? Todoroki asks one day. Bakugou. No one really. Todoroki hums, clearly dissatisfied. Are you sure? I don't like girls that way, you know. My sheet dad always tries to set me up with them. But he doesn't know I like boys. Boys? Oh, I hope you find your significant other one day. I believe in you. Actually, I like someone, you know, he continues. It's a boy. Because I'm gay, you know. Midoriya knows, both that Todoroki likes someone and that he's gay. The latter, because he never failed to constantly remind him. The former, because he had seen the bruises when Todoroki bends down low enough, suspiciously in the shape of teeth marks, modeled over the skin of his collarbone. Who is it? He humors him, because this is Todoroki's favorite subject. I spend a lot of time with this person. A lot of time. Probably the person I see the most. Midoriya's heart beats faster. It can't be. Bakugou? Todoroki is Bakugou's roommate, so of course he would see him a lot. It makes so much sense now, why Todoroki won't let them meet, why Todoroki only lets Midoriya in his dorm when Bakugou is at the gym or in class. He wants Bakugou all for himself. Oh, he said, trying not to sound too dejected. If he and Todoroki liked the same person, then not only would his chances of interacting with Bakugou be even more dismal, but his relationship with his friend might also shatter. He would be alone again. That's great, Todoroki. I'm happy for you. Todoroki stares at him again, presses his lips together in a thin line, and looks away. Midoriya doesn't know why. Do he got the booty? Midoriya looks to see Kaminari Denki and a bunch of his friends surrounding a very embarrassed-looking Bakugou. He do. Fall into a shithole and die, he hears Bakugou growl. Well, that settles it. Bakugou is like a train on one set of tracks. He walks fast and keeps his eyes forward, on his destination. Midoriya is lucky enough to pass by Bakugou every night. Not that Bakugou notices him or anything. The gym and pre-med buildings are right across from each other, so if any dumbass stretches a muscle from trying to deadlift 15 pounds above his limit, he can get help, stat. He could probably write a poem about two ships passing in the night, never interacting. Sounds pathetic, he knows, but how much lower could he sink? Honestly. Todoroki parks his butt in the seat next to him and sighs exaggeratedly loud. So, Midoriya asks because it's the right thing to do. What's wrong, even though he already knows it's about boys? I'm showing him so many hints, but he just won't get it. I take every chance I can to hang out with him. I talk with him all the time. He's so perfect, I wish he would love me back. Todoroki's eyes never leave his face. Midoriya thinks. No wonder he's so social. He maintains eye contact in conversations, unlike most people. But because Midoriya knows shit about relationships other than what Relationships for Dummies tells him, he doesn't offer any advice but, keep trying, I'm sure it'll work out. He instantly feels like a bad friend after saying it. Todoroki is struggling here, mouth agape and waiting for a more useful response, and he says, like some dumbass who clearly doesn't understand, to keep trying. He can feel Todoroki's disappointment. He doesn't see Todoroki for a few days. Then a few weeks. Summer rolls by and the new school year is starting and still no Todoroki. He seems to have suddenly up and disappeared. Against his will, Midoriya flashes back to one of their previous conversations, remembering how frustrated Todoroki had looked. Maybe he finally got fed up? Midoriya sits at the foot of his bed in his new dorm, mind racing through all the possibilities, blaming himself and spiraling deeper in his thoughts to the point he almost doesn't notice the door opening to reveal his new roommate. "Hey, you the shit nerd? Deku or some sheet?" Midoriya's head shoots up, his little gay heart swooping to beat in his throat so he can't speak. "We're FNG roommates this year." Standing in the doorway, sweaty from a workout and doused with hallway light that spreads out and illuminates him like Midoriya's savior, is Bakugou Katsuki. If Bakugou thought he was suffering before, then he's in for a real treat. "Hey, you the shit nerd?" he demands, staring down at the pathetic little lump on one of the beds. Midoriya startles and Bakugou gets a full view of his face. Wild dark green locks around a freckled face. Kinda cute, not that extraordinary. His eyes move down. Musculature, nearly non-existent. Definitely not his type. Midoriya looks as scrawny and wide-eyed as a baby deer, jittery like one too. Seems more like Deku to him. Deku or some sheet? This is the guy who snatched away Todoroki's heart? If he wasn't going to see him every day, Bakugou would have forgotten him in about 2 seconds. "We're FNG roommates this year." He walks over and drops his sheet all over the unoccupied bed, practically startling Midoriya onto the ground. It's a FNG pleasure. It is not a FNG pleasure for Bakugou. He really does not give a shit about Midoriya or his issues. Just like how he didn't give a shit about Todoroki and his daddy issues. Alright, maybe he did give a shit about Todoroki. "Take care of Izuku," he had said. "F you, what about a thanks for all the shit I've done for you?" Bakugou had thought, but signed up to be Midoriya's roommate anyway. Surprise, surprise, there was no competition for the spot. Of course, he had known about Midoriya's suicidal tendencies, about his deep-rooted depression, and honestly, that was a can of worms he'd rather not touch. He had heard about his getting beat up every other day. If someone laid a hand on me, Bakugou thinks, I would knock his effing teeth out. From the bed, Midoriya repeatedly stammers, unable to speak the F up and articulate his goddamn words. The next day, Midoriya finally manages to speak coherently. "Hi," he says like he's reading off some FNG pamphlet. "I'm Midoriya Izuku. It's very nice to meet you." Bakugou squints at him. Didn't the fucker remember they had met yesterday? Or is he just FING stupid? He turns his back to him. Whatever. Bakugou is hogging up the bathroom mirror, and by extension, the entire bathroom, as he reapplies his eyeliner. Midoriya waits around timidly with his toothbrush, probably wondering when would be the best time to interrupt him to ask to use the sink. Bakugou hates the feeling of Midoriya's eyes on the back of his head. It's making his hand shakier. By now, Todoroki usually would have pushed him out of the way without any regard for the state of Bakugou's eyes. Move, beach. Todoroki never said that, but Bakugou felt the intention. Kid had guts, ones that Bakugou hated, but guts nonetheless. His new roommate, however, probably has a stomach full of marshmallow. If you want something, Bakugou caps his liner, then he say so. He pushes Midoriya into the bathroom as he walks past. "FING Deku?" Deku flinches when Bakugou looks back. "My name's not Deku. It's Izuku. I think you know that. You think I'm stupid or something?" Deku. Bakugou rolls the name on his tongue. No one rejects a Bakugou brand nickname. What does it mean? He doesn't actually know, but Midoriya's timidity is really getting on Bakugou's nerves, so he snaps back, "It means you're useless. Now go brush your FNG teeth." He doesn't look back to see Midoriya's expression. The next day when Bakugou steps into the dorm after his workout, Midoriya greets him with his back bent horizontally in a rigid bow. He looks as if he's been standing there for a couple of hours. "Welcome back. How may I be of service?" he shouts, not even phrasing it like a question. "What the F dash? I want to be useful to you," he continues yelling, and Bakugou swears he hears their neighbor's footsteps down the hall, wondering why the hell someone is yelling so loudly. Before Bakugou can tell him to pipe the F down, a knock. "Pipe the F down." They yell at him and nobody talks to Bakugou Katsuki like that. Bakugou's prided himself on the fact that he doesn't need to pull out the big guns when his words alone are sharp enough to cut someone down. Also, he glowers down at the poor, stammering mess. Don't definitely talk about Deku like that, and slams the door in his face. Because it looks bad if the people he's associated with get treated like sheep by anyone other than him. Oh yeah, and also because Todoroki asked him to take care of the nerd. Bakugou turns around. Deku, you want to be useful, right? Speak the F up for yourself. Deku's whole face lights up like a Christmas tree and he opens his mouth, probably to spew some shit about Bakugou being his lord and savior, which Bakugou already knows. Thanks, Kaken. Who the F is Kaken? Bakugou asks, but Deku keeps on smiling like an idiot. Actually, don't talk. Sit down and shut the F up. Todoroki tells him like it's his dying wish to take care of the maggot. Fine, Bakugou's going to care for him till he's a puddle of BLD. Todoroki, hey, how's it going? Midoriya, hi Todoroki. I'm pretty good, how are you? Todoroki, how's Bakugou treating you? Midoriya, really well, it was kinda rough at first, but he's a real nice guy. Todoroki, it's okay, you can just say he's an a-hole, I won't tell. Midoriya, well, kind of, he curses and yells a lot. Midoriya, yesterday he made a guy cry, but he means well. Midoriya, most of the time. Todoroki, yeah. One day, as Bakugou's cleaning up, he finds Deku's copy of Relationships for Dummies and scoffs. No wonder he sounded like he was reading from a script when he introduced himself. No wonder Todoroki couldn't get past the friend zone. They followed that FING book way too literally. But even more golden, Bakugou finds Deku's journals. All 13 of them. He knows Deku writes all his personal shit in there. Reading them would be a total invasion of privacy. So does Bakugou read them? Hell yeah, he does. Deku relaxed a whole lot more after the incident, so much so he actually showed some personality. Bakugou learns 2 things about Deku he didn't know before. 1. Deku is a nerd with a capital N, and 2. Deku talks like he has everything in the world to talk about, and despite Bakugou's best efforts to get him to shut the F up, Deku does not shut up. The former, Bakugou supposes he should have seen it. Bakugou called Deku a shit nerd the first time saw him, but he didn't know the guy was literally a shit nerd. Bakugou is usually out most of the time, what with research, studying, and training, so the most he sees of Deku for about a month is a lump under his bedsheets, watching anime. Deku eventually gets comfortable enough around him enough to watch his shows above the bedsheets, staying up late into the night because of his nerd shows. His favorite, Bakugou learns, is Neon Genesis Evangelion. Bakugou cannot tell you how many times he's walked in to see Deku's eyes glued to his laptop as Asuka yells at Shinji to man the F up. Bakugou doesn't complain nearly as much as he would have liked though, because he likes shit like Enji, even though he can never watch through more than 2 episodes at a time. Asuka's pretty effing loud, it's so annoying. He comments one time next to Deku, nearly dozing off on episode, reminds me of someone I know, Deku says, and the laughing tone of his voice makes Bakugou push his butt out on the floor. Bakugou thinks that Deku is even louder than he is. Discovery number 2 comes in the weirdest of moments. Deku is sitting on the toilet for God's sake, and from behind the bathroom door, he says, "Hey, Kaken, don't talk to me while you're shitting, that's FING disgusting." Do you ever think about the Olympics and see athletes fail horribly and wonder, maybe if they didn't get scouted for the Olympics, they would have been happier? No, Bakugou answers from his desk, but Deku doesn't give a F dash. I mean, he continues. They were picked to represent their country and everybody had such high expectations of them. But when they make a mistake, it's like they let everyone down. So if they had never gotten picked, maybe they wouldn't have to deal with that pressure. Except, everyone really wants to be picked, so I think that's why it's so hard for them. What the F is this guy talking about? You trying to say something? Think you're not good enough for this school? What the F dash? Nothing. Deku flushes. Another time, it's 2 a.m. and Bakugou is almost asleep with his back to the other side of the 20x15 room when Deku whispers, "You awake?" "Yeah, thanks to you," Bakugou thinks, but figures if he stays silent Deku will just give up. Fat chance. Okay, Well, I don't know if you're listening, but I'm going through a really hard time now. I really want to help people, but I don't think it's working. I'm trying to make friends and there's this guy I really like, but I guess I'm really bad at socializing and blah blah blah. Bakugou tunes him out. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, thanks. For kinda being my friend and looking out for me. Yeah, that's all. Bakugou waits until he hears Deku's breathing even out, then closes his eyes. Asuka and Shinji aren't really a good pairing, Bakugou says as they watch End of Evangelion. Who the F ships a pairing that chokes and slaps each other on a regular basis? Deku really likes romance anime. NG, Bakugou can stand. Your lie in April he cannot. It's a really touching story, Kaken. Deku exclaims and Bakugou doesn't say that he knows. Bakugou's watched it at least 5 times and he FNG cries like a baby every single time. I hate mushy shit like that, he says instead. He'd rather die than come out of his romance closet. 252. Todoroki sent one photo. Todoroki, it's my mom's Marimo, it reminded me of you. Midoriya, oh it's so cute now I want one. Oh. Todoroki, yes. It is very cute. Todoroki, very cute. 255. Todoroki, by a Marimo. Bakugou, the F dash? Todoroki, Midoriya wants one. Bakugou, so what am I, his caretaker or sing? Todoroki. Bakugou, that's right beach. 3 o'clock. Todoroki, by a Marimo. 524. Todoroki, by a Marimo. 958. Todoroki, by a Marimo. Todoroki, sent one photo. Bakugou, is that the Kat Von D triple threat tattoo liner set? Todoroki, I don't know, is it? Todoroki, Fuyumi ordered it but she can't really apply eyeliner. Todoroki, if only we had somewhere to put it. Or someone to give it to. Bakugou. Bakugou, you better not be FNW me. Todoroki, by a Marimo. Bakugou, Jesus FNG Christ okay. 11:15. Bakugou, BTW ik your sister didn't buy that, do you think I'm FNG stupid or something? Bakugou, that package better be sent to me. Todoroki, got it. 12. Midoriya, look at what Kaken got me. Midoriya, sent one photo. Midoriya, now we match. Todoroki, Midoriya, that's such a coincidence, lol I can't believe it actually happened. Todoroki, wow me neither. Okay, Kaken, no hard feelings no matter what happens, right? Deku says, holding the Wii remote. Sure, whatever, but I'm gonna win, Bakugou says flippantly. Come on, start the FING game already. Deku beats him. Bakugou throws his remote in his face and stomps out the door. That BS dirty Todoroki must have told Deku the FING cheats. Bakugou and Deku are in the same PE class. It's the only class they share. And if UA is known for one thing, it's that the gym classes are FING brutal. Bakugou sometimes feels a little bad for the kid when he sees Deku breathing like an ox going to the slaughter, or when Deku stops to hurl his breakfast all over the freshly mowed Big Green. The only blessing Deku has is that no one takes the time to purposely trip him or even call him names. Midoriya thinks it's because everyone else is too tired to, but it's also because they know that hell in the form of Bakugou Katsuki will descend upon them if they do. So he's lying to the side of the dirt path like roadkill, admiring Bakugou's calves as they get farther and farther away until Bakugou comes full circle and kicks at his comatose body to get the F up. I can't, he wheezes. And it's not an excuse, he seriously can't. Get up, you lazy sack of shit. Bakugou barks and the people around them wonder if having Bakugou Katsuki as a protector is a blessing or a curse. F a useless Deku. Keep trying, Midoriya runs until his heart pumped battery acid and his mouth tasted like vomit. Then he runs some more. Keep trying. Deku is hunched over his desk, slaving over some pile of notes. Out of sheer curiosity, Bakugou tries to peek over his shoulder and sees a drawing of the molecular structure of DNA gyrase. Is that FNG chem? Kaken? Deku screams and pushes away the notes, clearly uncomfortable. What are you doing here? Bakugou narrows his eyes at him. I live here, Deku. Alright yeah. Oh whatever. Let him do his shady sheet. Bakugou forgets about the incident the next day. Kaken, could you lend me your chem notes? No, Bakugou doesn't even look up but he knows Deku's startled on the bed. Oh. Deku says meekly and Bakugou knows he's probably stewing in embarrassment, timidness, and confusion over the chem problems. If he were nicer he'd probably help the poor guy out but here's the shtick, he's not. Deku, give me a piece of paper, he asks when he runs out. He doesn't really expect Deku to do what he commands, especially after he blew the poor fucker off like that, but lo and behold Deku surprises him yet again when he hands over not one sheet of paper, but his entire FING notebook. What the F dash, Deku, I only asked for one sheet not your notebook? Oh, it's fine Kaken. You'll probably ask for more later so, Deku does that annoying thing he does where he scratches the back of his neck and looks away when he can't FING articulate himself. Bakugou doesn't have time to decipher what he's trying to say but he always has time to be properly said about something. Something about the way Deku said it and did that sheet annoys him to no end, so he just turns his back and ignores him for the rest of the evening. Bakugou starts demanding things more often. Deku, let me use your eraser, lend me your DVD, let me listen to your headphones, give me some of your food. Deku, like the unquestioning dumbass he is, does whatever Bakugou tells him to do without complaint. Deku, give me your pencil, Bakugou says suddenly, not looking up from his desk. Midoriya gives him his pencil and Bakugou finally realizes why he's so FING said. Deku! He yells, throwing the pencil back in Deku's stupid FNG face, not giving a F when Deku jumps a foot in the air. What is it, Kaken? That, he yells. That thing you always do. Why did you give me your FNG pencil? You were using it and I had one right thing here. Deku starts, searching for the right answer. Because, you asked me to? Exactly right. But wrong. Bakugou screams. I asked you for something that I already had and that you needed and you just gave it away. I'm sorry. Deku looks just about ready to release the waterworks and Bakugou explosively sighs, grabs him by the arms, pulls him out the door. Kaken? Kaken! Where are we going? Shut the F up. Deku, listen up. This is what you gotta do when scumbags, he points to the very beat-up person behind him, decide to take your sheet whenever they want. Kaken, I don't think I can beat. Deku shifts around, still looking hesitant to punish a guy who nearly beat him into a pulp and tried to take his wallet just for kicks. But looking at him after Bakugou beat him into a pulp was honestly kind of pitiful and honestly, Deku wasn't about that kick-a-down dog lifestyle. Please, I said I was sorry. I won't do it again. Shut the F up. Bakugou turns around to scream at him and the guy cowers back, shaking like a FING leaf. You gotta be FING assertive. This is your FE wallet. Come on, tell him to F off. This, Deku yells, but the effect is lost when his shaking is even more intense than the guy who just got FING beat up. This is my wallet. Sounds like the type of sheet you'd hear in a grade school anti-bullying video, Bakugou thinks. Time to rack it up. Great, now let him have it. You can have it, Deku stammers, takes out his wallet, and hands it over. What the F? No. He slaps the wallet out of Deku's hands and pushes the poor beat-up dude flat on his butt. Holy F, they just, weave so. Deku just stares at him with those big doe eyes and for once, Bakugou doesn't know if he wants to deck him across the face or just leave him alone. The tears would well up in Deku's eyes either way. He compromises and pushes Deku's butt out on the ground and walks away, not looking back, but listening as Deku scrambles to get up and follow. Deku, lend me your pencil, Bakugou says when he can't find his. He holds out his hand expectantly but nothing is placed in his hand. He looks up, ping his eyebrow at Deku physically restraining himself from handing over his pencil. This, Deku shakes. This is my pencil, he asserts and Bakugou doesn't know whether to be annoyed or proud. Cute, he comments and his glare hardens. Annoyed it is. But seriously, give me the effing pencil. Deku hands it over. Because Bakugou is a FING machine, he goes to the gym after a whole day of PE, lectures, and study sessions. Deku just flops on the bed and doesn't get up, arms weak, legs spaghetti. Not that Bakugou expected much out of him. So he's there, going about his routine, run on the treadmill for an hour or so, then pump some iron. Honestly, he'd rather climb a mountain but unfortunately, the nearest mountain is a 2-hour train ride away. Usually, actually all the time, the bench press is free because Bakugou established the hierarchy early. This is mine. But what does he see? A not free bench press. The F dash, he shouts. This is my bench press, get off. The stupid bench press thief sits up and Bakugou sees that his hair is FING bright red. And if Bakugou has learned anything in the past year, it's that people with dyed hair are people he'd best stay away from. Oh, sorry, he says, and Bakugou almost takes a step back because his canines are sharp as F dash. I just transferred here, so I don't know if there's like a sign-up sheet or something. There isn't, but that's my bench press. Get off. And the guy has the gall to look amused. Hey bro, calm down, how about we make a bet instead, he suggests. Whoever can bench the most can use the bench press first. First he steals his bench press and now he wants to compete over it? Bakugou snorts. Challenge FING accepted. Welcome back, Deku says, not lifting his head up from his laptop. You watching that Evangelion sheet again? Bakugou screams and Deku jumps because it's been a long time since Bakugou let out so much steam. If I piloted an Evangelion, I'd punch that fucker in the face. He pounds his fist against the wall, wincing as his arm muscles complained. Kaken, are you okay? Deku says in a stupidly concerned voice. Did you overwork yourself at the gym? Maybe you should rest for a day. I am not sore. Black Eyes and Pikachu both tell the group they're going to be bringing a friend the next time they hang out. Bakugou doesn't really care. Until he sees Pikachu's +1. Yo, Bakugou! He swings an arm around Bakugou's shoulders and Bakugou tries to ignore how ripped it is. How are those arms? Man, you really gave me a run for my money there. I thought you were gonna beat me. Do not think about his arms. Do not think about the muscle tank he is wearing. Shut up, I'm gonna win next time, just you wait. Wow, you two know each other already? Pikachu asks and Bakugou says no the same time Hair for Brains says yes. This is Kirishima Aijuru, he introduces anyway. I'm Uraraka Ochako, a girl Bakugou didn't even notice pipes up. I don't give a DMN, Bakugou says and points to both of them. Your Hair for Brains, your round face? He feels immensely satisfied when round face touches her face, offended. Ah, don't take it personally, Ochako, Black Eye says. Katsuki gives nicknames to the people he likes. No I don't, and who gave you permission to use my first name? Be careful, Blasty, your tsundere is showing. Kirishima laughs beside him, one of those full-body laughs that reverberates through his whole body, and Bakugou's eyes unconsciously trail across his neck, over his arms, down his torso. Sniff. For how loud Bakugou is, he can only concentrate when it's completely silent. Meaning he doesn't tolerate sniffling noises. Honestly, how the F does someone like Deku get sick when he doesn't even leave the goddamn room? Sniff. I'm sorry, Kaken, he says from underneath the covers pathetically, and it's irritating as F because 1, it's loud, and 2, Bakugou remembers a lot from freshman year about how shitty being sick is, so he can't even yell at Deku for failing to hold it in. Bakugou stops what he's doing and takes care of him for the next few days because 1, the sooner he gets better the sooner Bakugou can start studying again, and 2, he might as well pay Todoroki back for all those times he took care of Bakugou when he was sick. Todoroki had cooked and cleaned, picked up his notes, filled up heat packs, got him medicine, and forced him to drink chicken soup that tasted god-awful because Todoroki's a chic cook. He even laid off plans with his perfect little Midoriya to take care of him, and how can Bakugou forget someone who did all that for his sorry but? Deku's easy to care for, at least, Bakugou imagines, easier than he was. Todoroki must have had a hard time. Deku doesn't complain, doesn't disobey. He's thin and pale and it makes Bakugou want to slap some color in his face. But if there's one thing he has over Todoroki, if there's one reason Todoroki owes him now, it's that even though Bakugou's chicken soup is way better, Bakugou spends an hour cleaning his cooking masterpiece out of the bedsheets when Deku ungratefully throws it all back up. He puts Deku back into bed and places a cold towel on his forehead to cool the fever. Deku must have been delirious as hell, his face fever red and his eyes dazed, because he murmurs, "Mom?" Like he doesn't even know who's taking precious time out of chem fellowship studying to care for his butt. Go the F to sleep, Bakugou says, but he doubts Deku hears it. Yeah, Todoroki owes him big time. There are a lot of things Kirishima Aijuru can do. Bro, do you even lift? Yeah, Kirishima can bench 150 kilos, almost 160 on good days. He can deadlift that amount too. He has 5,000 calorie cheat days. He can run a mile close to 6 minutes flat. His muscles are hard as rock. But so is his brain. Kirishima is the definition of a muscle head. Math, English, science. For all the muscles he had, the most important one, the one in his skull, doesn't seem to like working on any of those subjects. So, in high school, he just stuck with doing what he was good at, joining the track, football, and wrestling teams. Almost every day he and his buddy Tetsu did weight training until dark. He enrolled in his community college and called it a day. Maybe he could become a soldier or something. So imagine his surprise when he got a letter from UA Military University, the cream of the CRP, asking him to transfer sophomore year on an athletic scholarship. "We hope you accept this invitation," the letter had said. "Hell yeah," Kirishima had responded. "No shit, I'll accept it." Kirishima hears about Bakugou Katsuki before he sees him. Apparently he's really infamous in the school. "What's he like?" he asks. "He's basically valedictorian, but looks like a grade A thug. A scary motherfucker, you don't want to mess with him. Or his pet. He's like a ticking time bomb. He'll explodo kill your face." But then he sees Bakugou and he sees him. His shirt is sticking to his ist, faintly outlining his abs. His spiky blonde hair is slightly matted down from sweat, eyebrows are pinched together, mouth in a scowl. Bakugou narrows his eyes, crosses his arms over his and pps his chin up to look down on him, and Kirishima follows the bead of sweat on his neck down to his collarbone. He looks sad and manly. And also really, really hot. "What the F dash? Get off my bench press?" Kirishima barely registers the rude words. Yeah, his voice is nice too. "Oh my god," Kirishima announced to his roommate. Like, he wanted the bench press and got so sad when he couldn't have it. But he didn't want to back down from the challenge either. "Sounds like Bakugou," Kaminari hums. Kirishima's first meeting with Bakugou and he's already exasperated. Not really that weird as far as people's first impressions of Bakugou. "So I went pretty light at first to see how much he could handle, but the weights just kept racking up, man. Like, he's really, really strong," Kirishima says, and Kaminari remembers when Bakugou judo flipped him on the concrete when he tried smashing cake in his face for his 19th birthday. "We almost went to my limit, but he had to stop at 140 and kept on insisting that he could do more." Kaminari worries slightly when Kirishima sighs dreamily. "He's so manly and cute." Kirishima likes him that way. "You like Bakugou?" Yeah." Another dreamy sigh. Kaminari has never met someone outside their little group who wasn't at least a little afraid of the guy. Even Kaminari is afraid of him, sometimes. But why? "Weren't you listening, bro? He's so manly and cute. He's seriously perfect. He's rude and curses a lot. He constantly looks like he wants to beat someone to a pulp. He's kinda psycho. Don't get him wrong. Kaminari, as one of the Baku squad, is probably the closest thing to being one of Bakugou's friends. After a year of hanging out with him, he can see some of Bakugou's good traits, but for someone to have a crush on him? Aren't you his friend?" And oh shit, Kaminari can tell that Kirishima's not listening to him. He's passing into the blind love territory. "Introduce me to him, okay?" "Dude, no," Kaminari says, but Kirishima is an immovable object and Kaminari is weak to his pouts. "Fine. Kaminari, you are my BRO. Do you think this tank brings out my muscles more or this one?" Kirishima asks him for his number and Bakugou is really tempted to tell him to F off. He was going to do it, he swears, but something about the dimple on Kirishima's cheek as he smiled with a mouthful of shark teeth is oddly, annoyingly endearing. It works some voodoo magic on him and Kirishima takes full advantage of that and his number. This is what Bakugou gets for being such a weak-willed piece of shit. Kirishima's calls, Bakugou learns, usually fall in two categories. 1. Dumbass memes made purely to annoy the F out of him, and 2. Help. Most of his calls are the first type and most of those happen at the ass crack of the night. When Kirishima doesn't show his face at the gym the same time Bakugou does, Kirishima calls. It's 2 a.m. and Bakugou's about to tear this fucker a new a-hole when, help is what Bakugou picks up to. Without meaning to, his heart rate speeds up at the panic in Kirishima's voice. What is it? Help. I accidentally built a shelf. You with me, sheetface? No. Bakugou, listen to me, I was just gonna make myself a sandwich. Next thing I know there's a big old shelf on my plate. Do you have any idea what time it is? He says quietly, deadly, and Kirishima chuckles nervously on the line. Bakugou's knuckles whiten, hands shaking out of pure rage, threatening to crush his phone. If only his sweat were nitroglycerin. He'd blow his phone, his dorm, and FENG Kirishima sky high. I cannot believe you used my number to tell me this bullshit at 2 a.m. UF. Kirishima stays on the line to listen to Bakugou yell obscenities at him out of obligation. The next time, Bakugou expects full. He actually doesn't expect a second call after the verbal beatdown he delivered hot and fresh to Kirishima's butt. This time, he doesn't even give Kirishima time to speak. 2 a.m. FNG again? What the F is it, huh? Give me a shitty answer and I'll come over there and kill you myself. Well, I do have a meme in hand and... You don't believe me? Kirishima cuts his sentence short. The reason I called was, I need your help. He sounds hesitant. Built another shelf? Kirishima laughs into the speaker. Oh my god, that was great. But no. I'm having some trouble in chem, actually. Was wondering if you'd help me? The no. What's in it for me, anyway? I'll buy you dinner after every gym session. We can go to the gym after studying and then straight to dinner. Bakugou thinks on it for a long time. He does get really FNG hungry after the gym. Plus it's not his money he's spending, so what's there to lose? It's only later that Bakugou realizes. He not only signed up to be Kirishima's tutor, but also Kirishima's workout buddy. Bakugou tries to get mad, but Kirishima is a pretty and good workout buddy. But there are two problems Bakugou has with him other than his hair. 1. He wipes, and 2. He says the stupidest shit. It's proper gym etiquette that the guy before you wipe the equipment after he's done, but Bakugou's not ratting Kirishima on that. No, not only does Kirishima wipe his seat and the equipment after he uses it, he even wipes the equipment after Bakugou uses it. Dude, you're like, so sweaty, Kirishima comments as he swipes a towel over the bar. Did it rain indoors or something? I could FNG wipe it myself, Bakugou growls. He knows he's sweaty. Taking tests, eating dinner, applying eyeliner, lifting weights. It's not like he's nervous or anything, his sweat glands are just highly active. Kind of like Deku's tear glands. Again, he wishes it were nitroglycerin so he could FENG blow the place up. Nah, it's fine. Come on, I insist. He ignores Bakugou and continues and sees him off to no end. You gonna insist on wiping my butt when I go take a sheet too? Kirishima lays off for the day. The next problem makes itself known all the DMN time. The day after the sweat incident, Kirishima's spotting him for God's sake and he just has to open his big mouth. Bakugou, he says. What? So if you won't let me wipe the equipment, can I towel wipe your sweat off of you? He smiles flirtatiously above him. What? Bakugou's arms nearly give out and the bar comes a centimeter above his ED before Kirishima does his goddamn job and helps him pull it up to the rack. Oh my god, Bakugou, are you okay? Kirishima's smile dissolves into a concerned look. No. The F was that? Get out of here with that gay-ass sheet. Wait, you're not gay? He looks way too worried all of a sudden. You don't like guys? Guys like me? I am gay, shitty hair. Doesn't mean you can just say that shit casually. Especially if I'm on the goddamn press. Oh, thank God, Kirishima's smile is back. What? Nothing, nothing. Bakugou, Kirishima says not because he has something to say, but because he has to say something. What? I'm really hard, wanna feel? What? Bakugou screams, dropping the dumbbells on his foot. F-. Oh F sheet, you okay? When Bakugou's foot is fit in a cast, Kirishima leans over and whispers, I meant my muscles, dude. He smiles flirtatiously. But you get me hard other places too. What the F-. I told you not to say that kind of shit again. Bakugou does not blush. It's FNG disgusting. In the 2 months Kirishima has known Bakugou, he learns 2 things. 1. How to calculate the area of a shape rotated around the y-axis, and 2. That Bakugou gets way too embarrassed way too easily. Discovery number 1 is easy because Kirishima got help from Bakugou, and Bakugou is smart. He knows because he always sees Bakugou's name at the top of the test score ranks, and no matter how hard the exam, he's never seen Bakugou drop below 5th place. You would have never guessed, though, because Bakugou curses like he doesn't know any other adjectives and is way too loud for a guy who must study a lot. Kirishima is absolute shit at math, and really, any class other than PE, so he asks Bakugou to tutor him a semester's worth of calculus. He hits the real jackpot because Bakugou not only agrees with minimal cursing, but also offers to tutor him every week. I figured you're dumb but would need more than one day to figure out a single lesson, he explains and snaps when he sees Kirishima smiling dopily at him. What the F is it? Any other person might have been intimidated, but Kirishima thinks it is incredibly cute when Bakugou gets embarrassed by the smallest of things. Thanks for tutoring my dumb butt, he says sincerely and grins wide when Bakugou's face explodes into a shade of red. Kirishima is a dumbass. Bakugou thinks the main reason his hair is red is to distract people from the laughably small brain underneath. One of their tutoring sessions goes like this. So, how do you graph something in R3 again? I thought you needed help in chem, dipshit, not calc. Well yeah. Kirishima scratches at his bright red hair in a gesture that's frustratingly Deku. I kinda need help on everything too. What the F dash, shitty hair, this was not in the job description. Bakugou runs a hand through his hair and glares daggers but helps the poor fool with partial derivatives nonetheless. Help meaning, lots of forceful hand gestures, hair pulling, yelling punctuated with, you still don't get it. Even if ing. Grid. Schooler would understand this easy level sheet. All in all, it's hard to tell who suffered more. But Bakugou forgives him because, 1. Thanks for tutoring my dumb butt. Kirishima smiles and that dimple of his sticks out again. It's always the FNG dimple. And 2, so, where do you want to eat? My treat. Kirishima knows something is up the first time he goes to meet Bakugou in his dorm. The two had, to Kirishima's infinite glee and Bakugou's annoyance, or so he claimed, become workout buddies. Is Bakugou here? He asks Bakugou's roommate. What do you need him for? He asks. The tone of please GTFOs apparent to even Kirishima, and whoa, Midoriya is different from how Bakugou described him. Midoriya looks at him, sorry, he's not here, and closes the door in his face. When Bakugou finds him at the gym, on the bench press without him, he is said, didn't I tell you to come get me at my dorm? Your roommate said you weren't there, man. Deku said that? No FNG way, you just wanted the bench press all to yourself. Scoot over, it's my turn. Bakugou in between Deku and Kirishima. Hey, one of you. Get me a water, he says to the two on the bed. Of course, they say at the same time, and practically fall all over themselves to get a FING water bottle, which is weird as F, but Bakugou doesn't comment on it. He doesn't have time to think about anything else other than the fellowships. Kirishima plunks a water bottle on the desk to his left, and Deku slams one on the desk to his right. I said one of you dumb fucks. I don't need 2 water bottles. Wow, Kaken, your notes are so nice. Deku leans over his shoulder. I'm actually having trouble on this chapter. You're good at chem, could you tutor me? Kirishima in between Bakugou and Deku. Sorry, Midoriya. Bakugou agreed to tutor me today. Deku in between Bakugou and Kirishima. Actually, it would be easier to tutor me since I live with him. This is what happens. Bakugou asks for a water bottle and he gets a loud-ass argument over his head. Shut up, I'm trying to concentrate. He snaps and is satisfied when both of them settle for staring match instead. Bakugou takes a sip of his water. Midoriya's lucky that Bakugou has no qualms beating up girls behind the back of the buildings. He grips their arms when they reach for Midoriya, pulls them close, slaps and rubs his hand all over their faces, smudging their makeup because he knows how long that sheet takes in the morning. Why the F didn't you text me, Deku? He demands when the girls run off, crying. If you text me next time you're getting your butt kicked by some beaches, got it? Midoriya nods. Good. Now one last thing. He reaches into the purses the girls dropped, pulls out the eyeliner pens, and grunts approvingly. Let's go, Bakugou says, one hand full of his spoils, the other on Midoriya's arm, and pulls him out into the open. 7:39. Todoroki, how's Midoriya? Bakugou, fine, leave me alone. Todoroki, Bakugou, why are you like this? It how to feel when you are like this. Bakugou, God damn it, I said I'll take care of him and I am, so cool it. Todoroki, okay. Todoroki, are you sure? Bakugou, yes, do you think I can't care for AF brat? Todoroki, you guys are the same age. Bakugou, I can't even. 10:01. Todoroki, thanks. Todoroki has taken to Skype calls with Midoriya. The good news is that Midoriya always picks up. The bad news is that Bakugou is almost always there too. How are you, Todoroki? Great to see you again. Midoriya greets and Todoroki swears this was one of the greetings Relationships for Dummies had outlined in its Good Impressions section. Figures Midoriya would use one of the greetings without even reading the book. He's that nice and sweet of a person. Yeah, he responds. Relationships for Dummies tells him to ask Midoriya about his day, too. Todoroki and Deku don't talk at all. Okay, so they do talk, but it's mostly a bunch of scripted niceties and book analysis, and it makes him want to hurl. Bakugou's technically supposed to be studying for chem fellowships, but they're just so FING loud and boring he can't not get involved. Right now, it just sounds like a bunch of, how are you doing today? No, how are you doing? No, how are you doing? And Bakugou just blanks out for most of the conversation until, so how's your mom? She's fine, having a little trouble walking still, but it's progress. I think I might be able to come back early. Oh, that's great. When I get back, could you do me a favor? Bakugou sits a little straighter, interested. Is it gonna happen? Right here, right now? It's been so long overdue, is it really happening? Sure, anything. Will you, Todoroki starts to stumble on his words a bit, but it's a little hard to tell with his poker face. Deku is a patient little sheet as always, and Bakugou, being the great person Todoroki definitely doesn't deserve, decides to help the poor fucker out. He holds up his notebook so that Todoroki could see the words. Suggestions. Go out with me. Be my boyfriend. Marry me. Bakugou's right behind Deku, so Deku doesn't know shit about what's going on when Todoroki tries, as inconspicuously as possible, to squint to read the sharpety words. Bakugou flips the page. Effie. Todoroki? Todoroki? Deku calls worried. You have a scary expression on your face. Did you think of something? Nothing, he says, forcing himself to revert back to a default beach face, glaring behind Deku's shoulder. Just saw some trash out of the corner of my eye. Bakugou flips him the middle finger before hurriedly going back to studying so that Deku wouldn't see anything out of the ordinary when he follows Todoroki's line of sight. Oh, Todoroki. That's just Kaken. Yeah, I know. Bakugou throws his hands up in exasperation. This is what happens. Bakugou tries to be nice and he just gets shit for it. Half an hour later, Bakugou hears a voice sound on Todoroki's side of the screen. Yeah, he says. Sorry, Midoriya, I got to go now. We'll talk later, okay? Deku logs off. Good riddance, a-hole. Why do you bother with that a-hole anyways? Bakugou asks from his desk. Kaken, he's not an a-hole. Aren't you two friends? No, where the F did you hear that? To Bakugou's great annoyance, Deku gives him a look like he doesn't believe him. He and I are not friends. Kaken, he says, face unchanging, tone annoying as F dash. What about you, huh? He jabs back. You like him or something? Bakugou watches with great amusement as Deku's face turns red. Oh, how the tables have turned. It's not like that, Kaken. Wow, dumbass doesn't even know it himself. Okay, sure, he says disbelievingly as Deku groans. See how effing annoying it is? He gets up. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm coming with you. Bakugou turns to look at him, one eyebrow raised. Can I come with you? Jay, just this one time, I've trying to... Blah blah blah, Bakugou blinks at him. Well, this is a surprise. Why the F does he want to work out now? It felt like it was just yesterday when Deku had to go to the nurse because he FING collapsed on the side of the track. Boy, it was yesterday. Bakugou can't even remember the last time Deku went out of the dorm for something other than classes. He can tell Deku's starting to get uncomfortable with the way he's fidgeting, so he says, "Do whatever the F you want," picks up his bag, and leaves, not waiting for Deku like the a-hole he is. Halfway down the stairs, he stops to wonder if Deku even knows the FING way to the gym. Well, fucker's not stupid. He can figure it out himself. "Shuto," a voice calls from behind him. "Could you help me up?" "Yeah," he calls back and turns his attention back to the monitor. "Sorry, I got to go now." Midoriya smiles and waves goodbye the same time Bakugou says, "Good riddance, a-hole. Friends of yours?" His mom asks when he goes over to the side of her bed, one hand holding hers and the other on the small of her back. It's kind of difficult to classify them both, so he settles for "yeah" and leads her out of bed and into the kitchen. "Do you want some tea?" "Please." She sits at the kitchen table. He sets up the tea kettle and waits as he prepares the leaves. A few moments later, the kettle begins to whistle and Todoroki's eye twitches at the sound. Swipe, teeter. "Thank you, Shuto." She folds her hands over the teacup and they sit in silence for a while as she slowly brings it up to her lips, blows, sips, blows, sips. "Shuto? Would you?" She starts and Shuto notices for the 100th time how small and frail she looks with her blonde nearly white hair framing her face, eyes looking down at thin hands holding the steaming teacup in the middle of hers is like she could cradle her own heart. "Would you forgive your poor mother for everything she's done?" Shuto is so stunned into silence he doesn't say anything for a while. "I know this apology is long overdue," she continues. "But I've always regretted it. Always." What does he say to that? What can he say to that? "If only I hadn't married your father, or maybe if I ran away as soon as I could with you." No, it isn't all about him. "If I hadn't been so weak-willed and if I had." No. He shouts and instantly feels a hint of guilt when she startles and looks up. "It's not your fault," he insists. "It's not. You always tried to protect me, even with him around, so don't you dare start pushing all the blame on yourself. Mom, you tried to kill yourself because of him." "Shuto," she says, voice heavy, "I burned your eye." It wasn't your fault." He tries to counter, but he doesn't know who he's trying to convince. He can tell that she doesn't believe him anyway. It doesn't matter, he's still a shitty dad and a shitty husband and dash. "You don't have to force yourself," she says gently. "You don't have to forgive me now, either. I know how your father is, I know. But 19 years of this won't, be solved in a single talk." She sighs like exhaling a little of her burden away, and smiles that 19-year smile. "All I ask of you right now is to slow down. Take your time. Fall in love. Come to terms and make up with the past. I will be here for you, and if you ever want to forgive me, I'll be here for that too." She takes one of her thin hands and places it on Shuto's where it lays on the table, softly, fragile like a butterfly landing, and he suddenly feels the strong urge to cry, but he doesn't. Shuto's hand relaxes at the touch. His mom's palm is still warm from the heat of the cup and Shuto lets it rest there. F is a frequently used word in Bakugou Katsuki's vocabulary. Don't know how to describe the chicken soup he made? F delicious. That guy? F annoying. Deku collapses on the ground after running 3 miles and decides to stop coming to the gym? F weak S. He and Kirishima stuck outside under the small hood of the gym building alone because God suddenly decided that it would rain right after their FNG workout, leaving Bakugou with nothing to do but stare at Kirishima's profile and observe how nice his jawline is and how his red hair looks when it's down and sticking to his forehead and neck. So, Kirishima says, and Bakugou doesn't turn his head away fast enough from where he's following the path of a raindrop down Kirishima's neck. Do I got something on my face, dude?" "Yeah, just a really nice tan and jawline." "Stupidity." Thank God Kirishima has thick skin because he doesn't take Bakugou's words very seriously and laughs. Bakugou scowls and turns away so Kirishima can't see his reddening face. He feels Kirishima staring at him. "Dude, the tips of your ears are really red. You cold or something?" Bakugou starts, still staring steadfastly the other way when he feels something heavy and soft drape over his shoulders. "The F-," he whispers. Kirishima's in nothing but his workout clothes and his red Nike jacket is warm on Bakugou. "I don't need your FING jacket," He says but doesn't make a move to take it off. No, Kirishima says. But I want you to wear it. Kirishima has literally said he wanted to wipe off Bakugou's sweat off his tea before. He has literally said he gets hard around him. But for some unknown, goddamn reason, that little statement made both of them explode in red. An awkward silence settles between them, and you know what? Bakugou is feeling a little chilly. Kirishima's jacket is a bit bigger on him than it is on Kirishima, but fits pretty snugly, and honestly, that's good enough for him. It also smells pretty nice. FNW, this reeks of sweat, is what he says instead. We just got done working out, Kirishima answers. Still disgusting, Bakugou mutters and buries his face deeper into the jacket collar. So, Kirishima starts again. When do you think this rain's gonna let up? If I know. I have a calc test tomorrow. Can't stay up and wait too long. Not my problem. Kirishima hums. Wanna race back to the dorms? We live in different buildings, Bakugou says, but is already gearing up to motherfucking go. Does that mean you're too chicken? No. The rain splashes around Bakugou's ankles and beats heavily on Kirishima's jacket hood, but he doesn't pay attention to it when all he focuses on is winning. Some months later, in the dead of night when they're both on the same bed and in that strange phase between sleepiness and wakefulness, Kirishima will tell Bakugou that he was laughing when he was running. But right now, they're standing at the entrance of Bakugou's dorm building, breathing and soaked to the bone, bent over with their hands on their knees. I totally won, Kirishima breathes. You wish, shitty hair, Bakugou gasps back, and then they're grinning like two dumbasses. Nothing but the night, the overhead light and its moths between them. Chapter 6. Night. Kirishima ends up staying the night. They have nothing better to do, so Bakugou pulls out Mario Kart and a bag of Doritos. Mario Kart? Kirishima's face lights up like FNG Christmas tree, and effed him if it wasn't cute. I cannot believe this is happening. What the F dash? Bakugou shoots him a questioning glance. It's just Mario Kart? Yeah, he smiles. But Ashido told me that you only get out the Mario Kart for people you like? What the f no? Bakugou yells and yells even louder when Kirishima isn't intimidated. It's to establish my demps in the relationship when I crush your sorry but into the ground. Bakugou gets his sorry but beat into the ground. Why the f he's been losing so FNG much, he doesn't know. What was that? Kirishima teases, and honestly, if his dimple. Oh my effing god. He throws his hand up in exasperation. You used cheats, didn't you? Nope, Kirishima says, popping the pea, and Bakugou doesn't want to believe him for a second. By the way, where's your roommate? F if I know, Bakugou says, even though he has a pretty good guess that Deku's at the library. It's probably because he's too embarrassed to struggle in front of Bakugou, so he goes study somewhere else. But honestly, if he knows, that means I can use his bed, right? Huh? Get back to your own dorm. But it's still raining, Kirishima pouts. You don't want me to get sick, do you? Bakugou wants to say he doesn't care. He really does. But he doesn't because, 1, having a sick workout buddy would be a hassle, and 2, he's a weak-willed piece of shit. Vaguely, in the back of his mind, he wonders when, in the couple of months he'd known him, he let Kirishima close enough to not complain when Kirishima asks to sleep over. After another rematch, he says instead, I swear to God, I'll figure out how you cheated. 2 hours later, they're slumped over on the floor in front of the TV, dead asleep, the game flashing Kirishima's name as the winner on the brightly lit screen. Kirishima eats like a truck. It's my cheat day, he explains with his mouth stuffed full of his third burger, and it sounds like, if Mashiftfe. Disgusting, Bakugou crinkles his nose. At least swallow before you speak, you pig. You know, Kirishima says, clearly for once, I'm paying so you can order however much you want, whatever you want. I don't eat as much as you do, Bakugou retorts and picks at his plate. Truth is, he expected this place to have the super spicy Buffalo Wild Wings. They only had FANG mild. But he was hungry as hell and ate it anyway. Do you not like the food or something? Kirishima asks. And no, I'm not a mind reader. I wasn't thinking it, Bakugou rolls his eyes. So, Kirishima props his chin on his hand. What kinds of foods do you like? Spicy. That's so manly, he sighs dopily. I know this great spicy taco place we can go to. Oh, I'm already full and we are not leaving to go to another restaurant just to get spicy tacos, Bakugou tries to say, but half an hour later, there they are eating spicy chicken tacos on a cheap diner table. Bakugou boxes some to go because some dumbass didn't listen to him when he said he was full. So let me get this straight, the speaker sounds in his ear. You agreed to be his tutor, his workout buddy, and his regular dinner date? No. It is not a date, it's payment for my tutoring skills. Halfie says, unimpressed. So on your not dates he always offers to pay, asks you what your favorite restaurant is, goes through the effort to run to find food you like, tries to spend as much time with you as possible, sleeps over regularly, constantly flirts with you, and gets scared if you're not gay. Exactly. Bakugou, I want you to think about you just said. Really think? Halfie sounds exasperated and dry, and Bakugou thinks he has no right to sound like that when Bakugou suffered as his personal love guru for nearly all of freshman year. Then it dawns on him. Well, spit in my mouth and F me in the butt? Bakugou, hell, it's just an expression, okay? Kirishima uses one of his 2 a.m. calls and Bakugou's gotten pretty used to staying up later than he should. Hey, Kirishima says into the speaker. He sounds tired and done. Nothing like the regular Kirishima. That makes Bakugou's heart speed up even more than it did when Kirishima had yelled help on his first 2 a.m. call. What is it? He grunts. It's 2 a.m. He reminds him like it isn't a well-known fact. Nothing, Nothing. What the F, you can't just leave me hanging like that. It's just that. Bigger sigh. I don't know, man. You wouldn't understand? Holy F dash. Tell me. Bakugou all but screams into the speaker. Silence. I'm coming over right now, he says and hangs up before Kirishima can protest. All right, now speak, Bakugou says, sitting across the bed from him as Kirishima finishes the last spicy taco, tears streaming down his face, and Bakugou can't tell if it's from the spice or from whatever's bothering him. I think there's been a mistake, Kirishima says, and Bakugou leans forward. I don't belong here. What do you mean? I mean that I'm not as smart as you, or most people. Kirishima brings his knees up to his IT. I'm at UA, the best school in the country, and I just came here because of my athletics. My academics are shit, I struggle in all my classes, all I do is work out like some musclehead. Silence. You got a letter from UA sophomore year to transfer in, right? Kirishima nods his head. FING exactly. F minus your grades, F minus what anyone else thinks? Something rises from the bottom of his feet, to his hands, and he's up and pacing back and forth. You got in because UA was begging for you to get in. You're not a chem or calc or English guy, so what? You're trying to get better, and that's a whole lot FING more than what most people do. You're strong as F in a military school, you beat me in weights all the goddamn time, you're a FING beast at Mario Kart, you're so FING social you got me of all people to become friends with you, what? Kirishima is looking at him with awe, mouth slightly agape. Did you just call me your friend? That's what you got from all that? He asks, forgetting that he never calls his friends his friends. Isn't it effing obvious? Katsuki, you're. Kirishima stares at him before a big watery smile breaks out on his face. You're so manly. You called me your friend and oh my god. He laughs shakily, wiping his tears from his eyes. You can't just say I'm manly just because I beat you. I can do whatever I want. All right, Kirishima sniffs loudly, still smiling like a FING tool. I guess you can since you're the manliest guy I know. Shut up. He ends up staying the night. Kirishima calls him at a normal time for once just as Bakugou is packing up his bag after class. He almost regrets picking up because of how effing loud the Katsuki that exclaimed in his ear sounded. God, he was going to go deaf if he continued hanging out with this fucker. You won't believe what happened. Bakugou can practically hear the exclamation marks. What? Oh my god, I got a 100 on the chem finals. It's my first time being on the test rankings board, much less being first. Holy F dash. Congrats. He runs a hand through his hair and can't stop the smile threatening to break out on his face. Holy F, first? Holy F dash. Well, I wasn't the only one, Kirishima says sheepishly. Midoriya got a perfect score too. The nerd did. Katsuki, it's all thanks to you. Thanks for tutoring me, bro. Kirishima sniffles. Are you effing crying? No. Sniff. Oh yeah, he's definitely crying. There's something about Bakugou that makes people want to talk to him at 2 a.m. and he has no idea what the F it is, but nonetheless he hates how he can never get enough sleep. Kaken, Deku whispers from the other side of the room, and God, it has been a long effing time since Deku wanted to talk this late. What the F is it? He grunts but is almost in the realm of dreams, so he barely hears a thing Deku's saying. And yeah, so that's how my day was like. Deku finishes, not even aware how not attentive Bakugou is, his back towards Deku, practically snoring into his pillow. And well, there's this guy I really like. Bakugou's eyes blearily open at the words. I don't really know how to tell him. He's kind of I don't know. Taken, I guess? But I just wish I could be as close to him as he is with that other guy. Deku shuffles on the bed. Thanks, Kaken. For listening, Bakugou waits again, then closes his eyes, wondering when Todoroki got himself a boyfriend. Deku doesn't come to the gym again after his first trip. Which, 1, what the F, and 2, what the F? After all this asking, after all this begging, all this stammering, Deku just gives up after one trip. Bakugou thinks it might be how embarrassing it is for Deku, but honestly, it doesn't matter to him. Whether or not Deku's there doesn't affect his workout routine in the slightest. So Bakugou gets to the gym, Deku scrambling after him after he just upped and left without waiting, and starts running on the treadmill. Then Deku who esigas but at running, who lays on the side of the track after 2 miles, who FNG dies every time they have gym class. Deku comes up right next to Bakugou and starts running too. Well, Bakugou shouldn't be too surprised. After all, what the F else do people do at the gym? But that's not it. It starts when Kirishima comes in like he always does. Red, loud, and iffy and irritating. He slides up like a FING tool on the unoccupied treadmill on Bakugou's other side with a hey man. But once he gets a good look at Bakugou's +1, his smile gets a little dimmer. Hey Midoriya. Hey, Kirishima, Deku intones, voice flat. Anyways, Baku bro. Kirishima starts the workout with his load-ass mouth, steadily, increasing his speed to match Bakugou's pace, and the thing is, Kirishima knows his routine like the back of his hand. Hell, Kirishima adopted his routine. That's why it sees Bakugou off when Kirishima starts racking up the speed before its designated time. What the F dash shitty hair, he growls. It hasn't been a mile yet, the F you going faster for? Oh my bad, is it too fast for you? Kirishima glances at Bakugou and something behind Bakugou with this look, and okay then, Kirishima shows up during his gym sessions, adopts his routine, and then has the gall to change it and challenge him over it? Fine, challenge FING accepted. They're running, no, sprinting at FNG 10 miles per hour, when Bakugou hears the characteristic sound of an animal dying and he turns his head and sees Deku. Huffing and puffing, looking like he might just keel over right then and there, Deku is trying his damnedest to match their crazy butt pace. Deku, he yells as best as he can while his lungs are trying to gasp for air. The F you running so damn fast for? Kirishima ups the speed to 11 miles per hour. Like a domino effect, Bakugou matches his pace and Deku starts pushing the up arrow key with a weird expression that's half competitive and half wanting to die. Deku, what the F dash, you're gonna get wrecked? But Deku's eyes are fixated behind Bakugou and whoever, the F he sees makes him push the last few buttons to engage Sonic mode. Thump, thump, thump. Bakugou can see Deku's feet dragging, getting close to the edge of the treadmill. That dumbass is going to get himself injured. Bakugou slows down, reaches over, and sets Deku's speed to a nice 4 miles per hour. Kaken what? Don't, he interrupts. Don't start with that sheet. What the F dash, Deku? Don't try to do more than you can handle. Deku looks down guiltily, face still red and hair sticking up with sweat. I'm sorry, Kaken. Goddamn right you're sorry. Kind of like our first meeting, huh? Kirishima pipes up and Bakugou wants him piped down. You could not handle more than 140 pounds? He smiles. But you were pretty cute when you tried. Oh, it is on. Look here, shitty hair. They finish the 5-mile run, he and Kirishima going ham at the sprints and at the argument. Deku stays quiet the rest of the time, walking next to them at 4 miles per hour. It's 2 a.m. and Deku is nearly falling asleep on an advanced chem textbook when Todoroki calls him. "What are you doing up so late, Midoriya?" "Todoroki," he murmurs sleepily. "Did you just call me to check if I was sleeping or not?" He doesn't mention how it would have been counterproductive to call him had he actually been asleep. "Maybe," sounds the speaker. "But now that I know that you're not, get some sleep, Midoriya." "But Kaken and his friend are in our dorm," he says, somewhat dejectedly, and Todoroki is probably nothing but hyper-aware for all of Midoriya's emotions. "Just push them onto one bed and sleep on your own." Midoriya doesn't want to say that he doesn't like the idea of Kirishima and Bakugou sleeping on the same bed, together, while he occupies the other one alone. He thinks of when he asked Kaken if he could go to the gym with him, not wanting the other to spend time with Kirishima. He remembers dying after a couple of miles as the two of them continued, doing everything in sync, being fit enough to talk during and after working out for 2 hours like some gym monsters. He remembers how the two of them got swept up in each other, like some strong updraft had picked them up and carried them far, far away, leaving Midoriya on the ground. He remembers deciding that spending time alone in his and Kaken's dorm was better than watching Kaken and Kirishima interact. "Midoriya?" Todoroki sounds in his ear, and he gets the sudden, strong feeling of wanting Todoroki there beside him, at Yua, instead of with his mother in his childhood home. Maybe he and Todoroki could room together. What comes out instead is, "Yeah, okay. Good," Todoroki says. "By the way, yeah. Why do you call Bakugou Kaken?" Why was he asking about this? "Just his nickname. You can call me Shuto," it said quietly, shyly. Midoriya sits up straight. "Why, you can call me Izuku." He raises his voice and the 24-hour librarian glares at him. "You can call me Izuku," he drops to a whisper. "I mean, we've been friends for so long it is a little weird we're not on first-name basis." "Yeah. Good night, Izuku." He smiles at the sound of his name passing Todoroki's lips. "Good night, Shuto." He spends the night in the library. Bakugou spends most of his nights in his dorm with Kirishima sleeping on Deku's bed or in Kirishima's dorm sleeping on Kaminari's bed. He prefers his dorm though because 1. Pikachu never lets him hear the end of it, and 2. Deku's never there like 80% of the time, leaving his bed free. "Ah, Bakugou," Kaminari teases. "You're such a nice guy. No, baby, you belong in you. You belong by my side." He growls, but goddamn, he must be getting soft because Kaminari doesn't even cower in fear. Not even a little bit. "Aw man, stop it," Kirishima says, but he's smiling so it has about 0 Kelvin of effect. "You even called Kiri your friend," Kaminari continues. "As much of a milestone that is, I really doubt he's on the same level as me." "You're not my friend. You like him," he sings, and Bakugou struggles against Kirishima's hold as he reaches for Kaminari's neck so he can strangle the life out of that fucker. Reason 2, well, something's got Deku studying day and night, holding himself up at the library. Bakugou thinks it might be chemistry. For some unknown FANG reason, Deku insisted on taking an advanced chem class despite being an English/pre-med major. Bakugou spends nearly all of his study time for the chem fellowships. Plus, recently he's been misplacing some of his notes, and that's been a whole FING hassle in and of itself. So it's no wonder Deku, as a chem amateur, needs to take extra time learning elementary material. Nevertheless, he doesn't see Deku as much in the night time anymore. Bakugou sees Deku even less when this happens. Kaken?" Deku asks during his increasingly rare moments in the dorm. "What? Do you like anyone?" Bakugou pauses from his studying. "I hate everyone." He instantly thinks back to that one-sided conversation he and Deku had in the middle of the night. "There's this guy I really like." "What about you?" "UM.N01. Liar. I mean, I don't know if anyone likes me." "So, don't tell him," Todoroki had said. Bakugou's throat itches. "Who the F cares? Just say who you like." If there's anything Bakugou has learned from romance novels, it's that the longer it drags on, the more shit will hit the fan. Good for constructing long but books, bad for reality. "Say it, damn it," He snaps when Deku stammers. I'm not really comfortable with this. Say it uf dash dot. I like you, Kaken. Honestly, he should have seen it coming. Bakugou reads Deku's FANG life narrative without his permission after all. He's only on journal number 5 out of number 13 though, and the earlier journals are all major edgelord shit. My soul is empty and black because it has no one to love, and I watch from the darkness but do not interact, were effing hilarious. But I wonder if there really is life after death. I'd prefer if there was just oblivion, and the rest that followed started to worry him. After Deku's forced confession, he skips to the journals about college starting from freshman year and sees about 30 pages dedicated to observations just about. No wonder Todoroki couldn't get Deku to notice him. Fucker was too obsessed over someone else. Any reason why you haven't mentioned Bakugou lately? Todoroki asks Midoriya's sleep-deprived, pale face on the screen. He looks as tired as Todoroki's mother does all the time. Midoriya bites his lip. I've been kind of avoiding him because I told him that I like him, and Midoriya continues on spewing the logistics and details of exactly what happened, unaware that Todoroki stopped listening. Izuku likes Bakugou? The room suddenly feels too small, and watching Midoriya worry about his situation, he gets the sudden, overwhelming feeling like the world is closing around him. Crumbling. Midoriya's face on the screen becomes a blur. His headphones are basically useless. Everything dies away into static and all he can hear is I told him that I like him, I like him, I like him, I like him. Of course Midoriya didn't notice him. How could he like someone like Todoroki? Midoriya was too preoccupied with someone else from the start. His bangs fall to shadow his eyes and he can't sit around and listen anymore. I need to go, he whispers, so softly he's not even sure Midoriya hears, but he doesn't wait and ends the call anyway, leaving him alone in his small room. Izuku likes Bakugou. But Kaken has Kirishima, now, Midoriya continues. And Kirishima's gotten so much closer to him in so little time. He's so much better for Kaken than I am. He looks down, fiddling with his thumbs and smiling softly, self-deprecatingly. So, if this was meant to be, I'm just going to let Kaken go. I think that, now that I think back on it, we didn't really have a connection anyway in the first place, not like the one you and I have. So, silence. He looks up to see Todoroki's expression but is met with "your call has ended" message on the screen. I guess his mom needed help again. He sighs and closes out the window. Bakugou doesn't really act any differently around Deku. But Deku definitely changed. Bakugou doesn't even know what the sheet is up to these days. Deku doesn't even go out of the dorm except for classes. He jumps every time Bakugou enters the room and apologizes for every little goddamn thing. Back to square one. 12/07. Izuku, hey, Shudo, we haven't talked a lot since our call, just wondering if you're doing okay. December 24th. Izuku, Merry Christmas, Shudo. I hope your holiday has been going well. If you want to talk, just call me. 02 out of 10. Izuku, so, long time no talk, how's it going? 03/02. Izuku, is calling. 1 missed call. Izuku, okay. I guess you're busy, so I'll just be here if you need me. The day of the results finally come. This is probably the most crucial moment in Bakugou's academic career. The Chemistry Fellowship Scholarship is a big FING deal. One chosen student out of basically the entire sophomore chem department, 2,000-something students strong, would be able to work with both Aizawa Shoyuda, bomb mechanic and tactician, and the famous Toshinori Yagi. Bakugou has been studying for this sheet since his freshman year, maybe even before. He's slaved over books, stayed up hunched over his desk, and talked to Hatsum Mei, the junior year fellowship student, about the workload and what to expect. The day comes and goes and Bakugou is pretty FING sure he killed both the test and the interview. So imagine his surprise when he checks the website. Bakugou Katsuki. And underneath his name, Midoriya Izuku. Due to a surplus of qualified students this year, we were unable to choose only one talented individual for the chemistry fellowship. For the two chosen, congratulations. Bakugou Katsuki, Chem Major, and Midoriya Izuku, Pre-Med, English and Knots Chem Major. What the dash? In hindsight, maybe Bakugou shouldn't have taken it so personally. But if you know anything about him, he definitely took it personally. All of Deku's projecting pure admiration when he asked about his accomplishments, all of his clapping when Bakugou told him about his goal to become the one fellowship student. All the sneaking around, all the secret chem notes he had forgotten about. Deku wasn't even a chem major and he steals the spotlight straight from under Bakugou's feet. Was it all just pity? Was Deku the chem genius here, despite not even picking it up till college? Here Deku was, watching Bakugou work his butt off to get the position while secretly looking down on him from his little throne, way above his head. Watching, and then acting. He's standing over Deku, who has the audacity to look like he's the victim here, and Bakugou has had it. That's not it, Kaken, he denies. I never wanted to undermine your hard work. Hard work, he says. Like Bakugou was the only one who worked hard while he just got it. You've always been like that. Bakugou screams and even he knows it's bullshit but his tongue is just grasping for something to say. Ever since the beginning of the year. You look at me like that. It's because I admire you. I think you're smart and dedicated and talented. Tears stream down his cheeks and it makes Bakugou even angrier. I want to be closer to you, how can you not see that? Shut up. Bakugou pushes him with enough force that Midoriya's back hits the wall and he crumbles to the floor. Bakugou has never ever seriously hurt him, but he is too far gone in his rage. Midoriya stares up at Bakugou, whose figure obstructs the ceiling light, casting a shadow on Midoriya's form. Kaken, please understand I did it because I like you. I don't. Baku bro. Kirishima waves when Bakugou enters the gym. Do you want the bench? I want to punch something. He walks straight past him to the punching bags. Oh, okay, something was up. I'll hold it for you. Bakugou punches the bag with enough strength that Kirishima falls flat on his butt. Later on, Bakugou will think, what was he really mad about? That Deku the weak-willed loser was as good as he was in chem? Or that Deku the weak-willed loser denied it? What was Midoriya really hurt about? That Kaken, his savior, turned around and pushed him? Or that Kaken, his savior, failed to be pleased with him? That night, Bakugou hears him crying underneath his sheets. Cry me a river, Bakugou thinks bitterly. He's stupid if he thinks that those sniffling sounds he makes are anything but annoying. In the morning, Bakugou sees Deku's puffy eyes and stomps out the door. Midoriya does what he does every time something doesn't work out. He keeps trying. Kaken, here's the data printout you wanted. Kaken, do you need some water? Kaken, you figured it out. That's amazing. Kaken. No matter how much he talked, Kaken continues giving him the silent treatment. My boy, is everything between you and young Bakugou all right? All Might asks after Bakugou snatches the proffered lab goggles from Midoriya's hands and walks away without a glance. Midoriya thinks that the only reason Bakugou doesn't push him to the ground is because All Might and Aizawa are standing right there. Oh, it's nothing, he says. All Might doesn't look like he believes it, but he doesn't push. In their dorm, there is no All Might to act as a buffer. Bakugou focuses on his research and Midoriya, scared that watching NG would rouse Bakugou's anger, reads the manga instead. Bakugou's friends visit once to invite Bakugou eat out at a restaurant and celebrate the impacts of his research, but Bakugou refuses. And because Baku Squad is full of stubborn mules. They decide to bring the food to him, sitting around in a circle on the floor, stuffing their faces with chow mein and egg rolls as Midoriya sits a little farther away in the corner. Uraraka scoots over and invites him to join the circle, and even though Bakugou doesn't say anything, Deku is too scared shitless to try him, so he says, Nah, I'm good over here. Are you sure? Do you want? He said no, round face. Bakugou interrupts. Uraraka blinks, surprised by the hostility. Shoof, well, I'm going to sit next to Midoriya if you're going to be like that, Baku. Go then. When Uraraka plants herself next to Midoriya, he whispers, Kaken's, frustrated because of problems in research lab. Isn't he always like that? She laughs and leans a little closer. Hey, I don't know what happened between you two to make him suddenly act like that, but whatever he might have said before, don't just let him bully you around. Yeah, he knows. Good work again, Bakugou. Aizawa takes his dataset and Bakugou is just about to get the F out of the lab they were stuck in for 6 hours when he holds a hand up. Wait just right there, I need to talk with you for a moment. What is it? Bakugou grunts, shoving his hands in his white lab coat, toeing a spot on the floor. I'm going to be blunt. What is going on between you and Midoriya? Bakugou stiffens, his foot pausing for a second before resuming. Don't think I haven't noticed. I know this is the first time we've ever chosen 2 people for the fellowships, but you're going to have to SCK up your pride and work together with him. He stares at him flatly, observing how Bakugou scowled and averted his eyes. This is a chem lab, this is fellowships. Don't hold us back because of something personal going on between the 2 of you. The thing is, kid's smart. When it came time to pick the fellowship student, he was almost guaranteed to be chosen. Here, you had a kid who was extremely talented, probably worked his butt off to get where he is and probably had a genuine interest in chemistry to boot. But then, you had Midoriya, a non-chem major who somehow managed to slip under the radar for a while before bleeping on the far left side, red, bright, and noisy. The librarian, Chio, had told the 2 of them that Midoriya sometimes spent his nights holed up in the library, drowning over advanced chem textbooks, and it makes you wonder why the F he was trying so hard. Honestly, Aizawa didn't want to admit Midoriya in the first place. There have been multiple qualified people in the past, but that didn't mean the fellowships could extend its capacity to encompass all of them. No matter how hardworking, no matter how much the kid wanted to get in, allowing an exception was dishonorable. This is where things get complicated. Toshinori immediately took to the kid. Toshinori, we cannot bend the rules on this. Besides, he's not even a chem major. Yes, but Shoyuta. He boomed, and this is why the 2 of them never get along. Doesn't that make his accomplishments seem even more impressive? I still vote giving it to Bakugou and Bakugou alone, he said dryly. Toshinori, you cannot play favorites here. This is merit-based. Toshinori stayed silent for a while. You once told me that you wouldn't take anyone who showed no potential. Midoriya, my boy, started from level 0 and now he's level 20. Compared to the Midoriya I met during his middle school days, he has grown immensely. He stared meaningfully and pointed one of his fingers at Aizawa. You too? You also feel his potential, don't you? If there's anything Aizawa learned from 8 years of school and 10 years of teaching with Toshinori, it's that the man doesn't know when to give up. Fitting that he picks some kid who's exactly like him. He'll never shut up if Aizawa doesn't let him have his way. Fine. Aizawa sighed heavily. But the moment I see his potential drop down to 0, the moment I see that he cannot catch up, I will take him out. Excellent. I knew you would see it my way, Aizawa. Toshinori put a large hand on his shoulder. Don't touch me. Okay. Toshinori backed off, his duty done. Just thinking about their conversation gave him a headache. Aizawa closes his eyes and pinches the bridge of his nose between his forehead. Anybody would be upset to have to share the position with someone else. But Bakugou would be livid. He's heard stories about the kid's infamous temper and knows that he's probably a ball of pride. He almost feels bad for this Midoriya kid. But then again, who knows? Kill 2 birds with a stone. This could be a learning experience for Bakugou too. And this is where he stands now, dry-eyed and tired and done with the world. A stubborn Bakugou standing in front of him. Bakugou, he sighs and Bakugou glares hard. You're smart and talented. Stop acting like a kid. Bakugou toes the spot on the floor harder, frowning at the ground. I know, he huffs. Good, he says and watches as Bakugou makes his way to the door. And Bakugou stops. Get me the next set of results by the end of the week. I got it. Bakugou mutters something like, holy F dash, lay off, old man, and stalks out. Aizawa rubs his temples. He's going to have to learn some manners too. Hey, what's up with you and Midoriya? Is the first thing Kirishima says when they go to dinner after their study session at the library. Why the F is everyone asking? Bakugou grits his teeth and opens the menu. Why the F do you care anyways? Dude, it's written all over you guys. Whatever happened, you seem more down because of it. Kirishima pays a lot of attention to Bakugou. Just last week, Siro taped all his folders on the inside of his backpack so he couldn't take them out, and instead of yelling and raging and chasing him down, Bakugou just stared at Zero until he felt guilty. Jesus, I'm sorry, just stop, and fixed it. Midoriya, no matter what Bakugou might say about him, means enough to him to affect him so much. Kirishima knows that Bakugou cares a lot more than he lets on. Bakugou doesn't agree with him, but he doesn't outright deny it either, so he must be getting somewhere. Hey, you can tell me about it if you want. You were there for me before. I'll be here for you. Kirishima puts his hand on Bakugou's arm and it isn't shaken off. Accept some help once in a while, okay? Whatever. Toshinori watches as Midoriya struggles with carrying a box of lab equipment, arms weak, legs spaghetti. Midoriya, my boy. Do you need some help? Okay. He breathes, placing the box on the ground for a breather before picking it up again. No, it's fine, Midoriya. He takes the box from Midoriya's hands. Huh? It wasn't quite as heavy as Midoriya had made it seem. Then again, the boy was practically a stick. Midoriya, my boy, you need to go to the gym more often. Yeah, I know. He walks next to him shyly, scratching at the back of his neck. Is there something stopping you? No response. If you like, Midoriya, I could help you with muscle training. Midoriya's head shoots up, and Toshinori sees the exact moment his eyes go from dead sea base to sparkly, jumping out of the water sea base. Oh, really? You don't have to. Soon. Really? He laughs. Of course. It'll be just the two of us, no need to fear. Thank you, All Might. I'll definitely think about it. Please, don't call me that so loudly, it's a little embarrassing. Toshinori will do. Thank you, Toshinori. It's not like Shudo doesn't check his phone. In fact, he checks it all the goddamn time, even though Izuku and Bakugou are the only FING people he texts anyways. And for some reason, the fact that he stopped texting both of them makes him check all the more often. And it's not like he doesn't read their messages either. Oh, Shudo reads the hell out of them. Izuku, I'll be here for you if you need me. This is what's on his screen 3 months after his and Izuku's last Skype call, and Shudo's typed out at least a dozen responses. Thank you for the support, Izuku. I'm fine, thanks. Sorry I haven't texted in a while. I was too busy wallowing in self-pity at the fact that I love you when you don't love me back because you like Bakugou, and isn't that ironic because Bakugou was trying to get us together in the first place, but obviously that didn't work, so yeah, I just wanted to say that I really like you. His finger hovers over the send button, then he erases it. It's been 3 months. 3 months and it's faded a bit, but demon, does it hurt? The worst part, he thinks, is that Bakugou didn't even try. Bakugou just has to exist, just has to smile his arrogant, crooked smile, and show off how good he is at whatever the F it is, and boom. He can't complain though, it worked on him too, after all. The second worst part is that Bakugou probably doesn't even know how he's captured Midoriya. Hell, Bakugou doesn't even FING want Midoriya. That's right. Bakugou doesn't want Midoriya. Shudo does. Bakugou wants Kirishima. Kirishima wants him back. It's so FNG simple. Izuku, feel free to just text me whenever, Shudo. It's been 3 months. 3 months and his head's gotten a little clearer. He's Izuku's admirer, his currently secret love interest, his pathetic piner. Izuku might not return his feelings right now, but that's okay. These things take time, and even if it doesn't happen, it's still okay. It hurts, but it's okay. Because first of all, he's Izuku's friend and Izuku's happiness ranks above all else. He needs to be there for him. His fingers stall on the keyboard before typing. Midoriya tells Uraraka lots of things, but Bakugou is not one of them. They're sitting side by side, legs dangling off the edge of Uraraka's bed, a bag of chips between them, just talking. Why does Bakugou call you Deku anyways? She asks. I mean, black eyes, hair for brains, Pikachu, and ugh, round face are all jabs at physical features, but he doesn't call you celery stick or broccoli head or something. Or even nerd or plain face. Ouch, that hurts, Uraraka. Sorry, she says, not looking very sorry at all, waiting for a response. He said it means useless, . She hums, crunching a chip. I don't know, I mean, I guess that's what made me try so hard to please him. To impress him by getting into the fellowships. I kinda admire him and, well, I just didn't want him to think of me that way. Uraraka doesn't say anything for a while and Midoriya doesn't expect her to. I think it gives off a sort of vibe. Deku. She perks up. Like, I can do it, or keep trying. You made it into the fellowship research group, after all, so there's definitely no way you didn't try. Kaken thinks I didn't try at all and still got the fellowship. He curls his knees up. He thinks I was just making fun of him. Oh, Deku wonders how Uraraka can just wave off Bakugou's anger. He seems scary, I get it. You just gotta stand up to him, you know? So, now that we've given your name a new meaning, can I call you Deku? Bakugou is said and Deku is happy. Bakugou is FANG said that Deku is happy. Round face isn't with Baku squad more often than she is, and even though Bakugou is only a little phased that he doesn't see her more, he gets worse when he finds out that Uraraka has been ditching him for Deku. Usually, Bakugou expects most people to push Deku away as far as possible because 1. They do not want to deal with his depressive drama sheet and 2. Bakugou will kick their butts for harassing him. Well, he knows that Uraraka definitely isn't affected by the latter. The thing is, Bakugou should be happy that Deku is finally happy. He's had to work his butt off the last semester to try to push some life back into Deku and get him to actually stand up for himself. And now that it seems Deku is finally getting somewhere, he is not pleased at all. Deku and Uraraka are stuck at the hip everywhere they go. They eat breakfast together, walk to class together, text each other in the middle of the night. Later on, Ishido will tell him that they went to the movies together, studied for chem tests, exchanged FING poetry, and talked smack about him, not that he gave a shit. Distantly, he thinks of Todoroki and wonders what he will think if he finds out that Deku is sharing that same magical friendship he has with him with someone else. Uraraka is so good to him that Deku forgets all about Bakugou, forgets about his admiration and fear for him, and falls full force into Uraraka. Hi Kaken. Uraraka smiles from his bed, all innocent, and Deku doesn't even flinch as Bakugou glares daggers at the two. Deku stares steadily at Bakugou, like saying I'm not afraid of you. Hi Kaken. EDD-, he says, picking up his gym bag. He closes the door behind him and runs like a beach. Shudo, hey Izuku, sorry I didn't reply in so long, was busy. Shudo, how are things going over there? Izuku is typing. Bakugou knows something is wrong when he gets a call from Todoroki instead of a text after 3 months. But he answers anyway because it would feel like running away if he doesn't. Izuku told me everything, is the first thing Todoroki says after 3 months. Ice cold beach. What the F is wrong with you? Finally calling him by his first name, huh? What happened? Did long distance make you brave? You don't even deserve to call him by his name. Funny you're talking names because I clearly remember when you called me Izuku. Silence. F you, Bakugou. I was wrong to trust you with Izuku. Yeah, well, maybe you should have gotten more friends. He tries to jeer but Todoroki had already hung up. F-. He shouts, throwing the phone at the wall. Kirishima opens the door to find Bakugou drenched in rainwater, breathless from running across buildings. He lets him in without a word and dries him off with a towel. Bakugou doesn't look sad, or grumpy, or anything. He just stares at the floor with a towel on his head, watching the water from his hair drip onto the wood. He lets Kirishima walk him over to his bed and sit him down. Bakugou knows Kirishima knows what the problem might be, but he just sits and waits for Bakugou to start talking. There are so many things he can say, so many things he wants to say. Todoroki only heard Deku's side of the story. I do all this stuff for Todoroki and I get a verbal lashing. I do all this stuff for Deku and he ends up happier than I am. He doesn't say any of it, though. He thinks that Kirishima can see right through him. He feels like utter shit. His t-shirt is cold and sticks to his back. His throat is hoarse from yelling. His head aches from the cold wind smacking against it. His hands are trembling and he can't make them FNG stop. You said you'll be here for me, right? Kirishima nods. Then do good on your promise. He pushes him down on the mattress firmly, slowly, giving Kirishima plenty of time to refuse. A drop of rainwater from Bakugou's chin falls in the crevice of Kirishima's collarbone. Kirishima is looking at him with a strange sort of wonder, like Bakugou's the moon pulling at him, like Bakugou's done nothing wrong even though Bakugou knows he has, like Bakugou's the only person that matters and the only person he wants. Him, dirty and ragged like a homeless cat, eyeliner probably smudged as F-. Him, with a punk appearance and an a-hole personality to match. Do you want to do this? Do you want this? He asks and Kirishima wants. Bakugou removes both their shirts and shivers when his cold iced tea comes in contact with Kirishima's warm one. Well then, if Kirishima wants this broken jackass of a person, if he wants to suffer through this year and probably many more with him, then so be it. Bakugou will let him. Sophomore year last quarter. Uraraka stops coming to their dorm and Midoriya to hers for a while, not that Bakugou notices or anything. But living with Midoriya is pretty much like living with a ghost. If Bakugou didn't know any better, he would say that the lump on the bed was just a really oversized potato. Sheet hair, hey, you're coming, right? It's been like 30 minutes. He turns right before going out the door to glance at the lump of meat. He's left the yelling in favor of the cold shoulder. He knows Midoriya is awake underneath the covers. And Midoriya knows he knows, but neither of them say sheet. The sounds of Bakugou's phone having a FNG seizure is loudest sound in the narrow room. Sheet hair, Bakugou, are you coming? Sheet hair, Bakugou. Sheet hair, Katsuki-ai. Sheet hair, come on man, don't ignore me. Bakugou, Ziftof. Bakugou, I'm coming. Kirishima throws his entire body onto Bakugou when he walks in. Dude, I thought you weren't coming. Holy shit, I said I would come already. Just let go. Yeah. He laughs with a mouth of sharp teeth and swings an arm around Bakugou's shoulders to lead him into the club. Kirishima tries to get Bakugou to dance with him, but he firmly plants his cute little butt at the bar and Kirishima finds that he's surprisingly okay with it because 1. He can try to lure Bakugou in with dance moves alone and 2. Bakugou can get some entertainment out of it. Kirishima's seen the Discovery Channel animal documentaries. He knows what a great mating dance looks like. But he epically fails in trying to pick Bakugou up with his bend and snap secret move as Bakugou spends the good part of the night at the bar, watching Kirishima make a dumbass of himself in silent amusement. And the best part? Kirishima's not even embarrassed. Turns out watching Bakugou trying to hide his rare dorky but smile behind the rim of his glass is almost as good as getting him to get the F over here on the dance floor. You dance like a drunk elephant, he says when Kirishima comes around to his seat. Then, I was going for the drunk peacock. Please, you were nowhere as graceful. Bakugou scoffs and takes a sip of his beer. Suddenly, he stands up and walks towards the stairs leading the rooftop. Ugh, this music is way too effing loud, and that's all the invitation Kirishima gets. 50 feet in the air, the music softens to a dull pounding. The moonlight is soft compared to the laser rave lights of the club. Bakugou has his back to him as he leans out, fingers gripping loosely at the beer bottle, SWing it with the night breeze. He half turns his head, hair golden pale and eyes glowing, to look at Kirishima, and Kirishima thinks that something about the altitude, something about the cool starry sky, something about the slight scent of smoke and whiskey tickling his nose, something about the night had that softening effect on Bakugou too. Well, you gonna get over here, or what? And Kirishima settles himself on the railing next to him. They stare out into the dark cityscape, all of its lights captured in Bakugou's eyes, and Kirishima tilts his head back to feel the breeze. They don't say anything for a while, the only sounds in the air being the clinking of Bakugou's beer bottle against the metal railing. Bakugou was a firework, an explosion, spontaneous, harsh, loud, but bright and awe-inspiring. Tonight, though, he's a wisp of smoke leaving the faint scent of ashes in his wake. Tonight, Bakugou's quiet, pensive, and Kirishima thinks he knows why, but that was for another time. Tonight, it's just the two of them alone together, and Kirishima lets a comfortable silence settle in the space between them. Katsuki, clink, clink. Clink, clink. Bakugou turns his head to look at him with red eyes, curious and bright, and Kirishima is caught in that awkward feeling of almost chickening out and simultaneously not wanting to. I think he starts. I think I like you. Truth is he knew. He knew a long time ago, but it felt clearer than ever. He rolls the words on his tongue slowly, testing them, tasting them, and they tasted true. Like really like you? Bakugou's eyes widen minutely and his hand stops SWing and Kirishima feels his face burning. Like more than a friend. Like, yeah, I got it the first time. I mean F-. We had to face. That's not the only thing, but Bakugou's ears are tinted pink and he looks everywhere but Kirishima's reddening face, and Kirishima thinks that Bakugou knows, even without listing everything out. Bakugou whispers, running a hand through his hair like he can't believe it. I like you too. He mumbles and something wells up inside Kirishima's teeth, like a slow swelling of tide, and Kirishima thinks he can get sky high on this feeling. Can I kiss you first? Shut the F up, he says, moving to lean closer, and Kirishima laughs, wrapping his arms all over him, and thinks of how kissing Bakugou feels like fireworks. Two dumbasses alone on the roof of a club at midnight. Chapter 8. Alone Together. One dumbass at the edge of the Shimura Bridge. At the end of second semester, Midoriya is sky high, figuratively and literally. A little dirt speck standing like a fool 100 feet in the air, the flow of traffic rushing underneath him, the wind whipping harsh in his hair, the sun beaming bright in his eyes. This is where it starts. Before Midoriya fell again, he fell in love again. Uraraka Ochako is nothing like Bakugou Katsuki. She is soft, kind, and gentle where Bakugou is hard, mean, and rough. And so it goes again, he and Uraraka sitting side by side on the stairs of the pre-med building. He and Uraraka at the library. He and Uraraka at the cafe. He and Uraraka in Uraraka and Tsuyu's dorm. He and Uraraka where before it was only him and an angry Bakugou. She is the one who picked him up and gave him a new name when Bakugou pushed him down, and Midoriya thinks that she is the one. That's what he thought when he goes to knock on the door to her dorm, only to find it unlocked and sees with his innocent version eyes the love of his life. Kissing her roommate. Uraraka looked up, startled. Deku, she started, and he ran, feet thumping heavily down the corridor. He's never run harder or faster in his whole life, and Midoriya's certain that if his PE teacher could see him now he might have even felt proud of him. What the F is going on? People shouted when they heard ugly sobbing pass through the hallway. Ugh, is it that suicidal freak again? Midoriya locked himself up in his dorm room and Bakugou wasn't there. Bakugou doesn't even come to the dorm anymore. Whereas Midoriya is there but didn't really have much of a presence, Bakugou is completely absent. Midoriya thinks he knows what the cause is, where he's at, what he's doing, who he's with. He tries not to let it bother him too much. His feet hurt and he wound himself tighter underneath his bed sheets, becoming smaller and smaller in the empty room. First semester. The fourth time Deku tried to talk to Bakugou at 2 a.m., he made sure Bakugou was actually awake to hear it. Sometimes, Kaken, I don't really know where I'm going with my life. Great. Bakugou spat because if anything he is crabby when tired. Just don't jump off a FING building and you'll be fine. Deku doesn't respond after a while, so Bakugou mistakenly thinks that means it's okay to doze off. I think I figured out why I jumped then back in high school, he says, unaware that Bakugou stopped listening. I felt lost, alone. Todoroki's mother sobbed into her son's arms. You weren't there and your father Shudo knows. Midoriya gets sick. One of those lung-racking, never-ending sniffling types of sick. Vaguely, he remembers this flu from last semester, but not really who took care of him. His head had hurt so bad and his sweat had made the blankets cling to him uncomfortably, but what he remembered most out of that entire mess was a cool towel on his forehead. Someone's hand on that towel and that towel on him. It isn't until Midoriya suffers and there is no cool towel placed on his head for relief that he figures out who took care of him that week. The only person who was available to take care of him 24/7, and he didn't even get the chance to say thank you. Kaken. They're laying in bed together, Bakugou's back on Kirishima's arms around Bakugou's waist, their legs tangled together. Babe, Kirishima murmurs into his neck. Do you ever want to talk to Midoriya? Bakugou doesn't answer and Kirishima knows he's not asleep from the way he's breathing. It's a skill he's acquired from many nights. I don't effing know, he says finally. Maybe. Kirishima noses the hairs on the back of Bakugou's neck and exhales. He feels Bakugou's breath slow and then he knows he's asleep. Research at the fellowships loses its tension and Midoriya thinks that any other time he would have been happy that Bakugou is acting civil for once. Kaken, here are your goggles, he says and fully expects Bakugou to rip them from his hands again. But Bakugou just walks over, takes them from him like a normal person without the force and anger of 1,000 burning suns, and Midoriya knows that something is up. He gets his answer when Aizawa, who was watching the whole scene, nods his head in approval when Bakugou walks over to him and scowls. It isn't until Kirishima knocks on the door to their room that Midoriya figures it out. "You ready?" he asks, and Bakugou shoves at him and tells him to F off. In Bakugou language, F off means I'm a trash can not use to feeling these soft mushy feelings. In Bakugou language, taking goggles out of his hands like a normal person would means F off. Bakugou closes the door behind him without glancing back, and Midoriya stops to wonder if he's SST when he thinks he misses the way his relationship with Bakugou was like before. The last 2 weeks of the second semester pass like this. Midoriya alone in the dorm, in the library, in restaurants, in class. It's exactly the same as his first semester freshman year, but it's infinitely harder to go back to being alone after getting used to the opposite. Uraraka and Tsu, Todoroki and his mom, Midoriya and his beer. Bakugou and Kirishima. The day before finals, he sees Bakugou on the path between the pre-med and the gym buildings. Bakugou is walking beside Kirishima, close enough to be brushing hands with Kirishima, and doesn't even notice him. Like it's happening in a dream, Midoriya watches them pass by in slow motion, the distance between them increasing. He tries calling out to him, but something gets stuck in his throat. Then, time starts moving again. Through. Bakugou turns around and they look at each other for the first time in a while. Really look at each other. Honestly, Midoriya is surprised Bakugou even agreed to stop by their shared, though it doesn't really feel like it, not anymore, dorm to talk. Maybe Kirishima mellowed him out. "I'm thinking of renting an apartment," Bakugou says when they're popping shots. "After this year, I'm moving in with Aijiro." Midoriya feels a sort of old jealousy rise up in his tea, but he wants to be happy for Bakugou. He really does. He takes Bakugou's hand in his and shakes it. "It's been a pleasure." Bakugou smiles back, sharp like his winged cat eye. "The pleasure's all effing mine." Bakugou and Midoriya. It still stings, but now Shudo is able to think about Izuku's confession, Izuku's falling out with Bakugou, his acceptance of his feelings, that night more clearly than he'd been able to do before. "Shudo, if you like this boy, then just tell him," his mom says, and Shudo wants to say, "No mom, it's not that simple. Even if you think he doesn't like you back, at least he'll know your feelings and maybe it'll turn out that you were wrong." "I don't know mom. Tell me, what do you like about this boy? Tell me in exactly the way you would tell him." "I like his smile," Shudo thinks. "I like the way he brushes his hair back when he writes. I like how he always tries his hardest in everything he does. I like how he's always willing to listen to me. I like his green eyes. I like how kind and caring and smart he is. I like all 67 of his freckles. I like how smooth his skin is. I like how he doesn't have any scars." Actually, does Izuku have any scars? Shudo'd seen him scratching his arms, the back of his neck. He'd always chalked it up to nervous habit. He has no friends. Even if Izuku didn't have any visible scars, did he have them somewhere Shudo couldn't see? "Are you realizing something, Shudo?" If she didn't have 2 healing legs, if she weren't his mom, would he have known anything beneath what he could see? It dawns on him that Izuku is exactly like his mom, exactly like him. What the hell? The answer was right in front of him the whole time. "Mom," he whispers hoarse. "I think I get it now." "Do you now?" She takes his hand in hers and smiles. "Then what are you waiting for? Go get him back." "Bakugou, sophomore year is over. Bakugou, come get your Midoriya back." Midoriya and the edge of Shimura Bridge. After Bakugou closes the door to go out clubbing with Kirishima, Midoriya pulls the covers down to his chin and lays in bed for a few more hours, letting the dark close in around him. He checks his phone, not even flinching at the bright but screen flashing. A week since messaging Shudo, 2 weeks since Bakugou won't come back tonight, a week since Uraraka. It's painstakingly empty and Midoriya feels pretty FNG pathetic refreshing his chat history, so he turns off his phone, rolls over, and stares at the ceiling. He tries going to sleep a couple of times, but his heart beats loud in his head and the ticking of the clock as time passed was borderline irritating, so he forces himself to sit up. He puts on a pair of ratty but jeans, a random t-shirt he grabbed off the edge of his bed, and his J's. He sees some leftover bottles of beer Bakugou had with Kirishima a few nights ago, and why the F not? He's not really thinking. He can't really think after he drinks about 3 of them, anyways, so he walks out the door, down the stairs, on the sidewalk across the street. And this is where he is now, on the edge of a FING bridge. His head hurt like someone took a sledgehammer to it. He guesses that's what it feels like when you drink 3 Captain Morgans in one sitting and then subject yourself to the cold wind smacking against your skull. He watches the traffic for a while. Reviews his pathetic life. Thinks about his unrequited crushes, all the anime he'll never watch, patients he'll never save, chemistry problems he'll never solve. He thinks, and maybe reconsiders what he's doing. He remembers how he took the dive off a building in high school. Jumping off a bridge is pretty much just as easy. It isn't until Todoroki sits down with his mother and talks about her attempt to jump off the Todoroki LP tower that he remembers one of the rumors about Izuku Bakugou had told him. Pathetic. Suicidal. The signs were all there and he didn't want to admit it. Todoroki has some trouble with denial, see. And this time, there is no Bakugou to snap him out of it. Todoroki glances as his mother, sleeping peacefully on the bed. He thinks of Midoriya, miles away. Suicidal. Midoriya wakes up in a BMW to someone shaking his shoulder. He didn't know heaven had such nice cars. He opens his eyes blearily and sees something half red, half white. Shudo? Yes. Now Midoriya's sure he's in heaven. Izuku, he says worried. I found you passed out on the side of the bridge. Oh, Midoriya sighs. He does all these dramatics and passes out from alcohol overdose just 1 step away from death. Izuku, what were you doing? He could tell Todoroki everything right now, but he's too overwhelmed with the joy of seeing his friend again, the disbelief of what he was about to do, and the shame that crawls in his throat that he didn't have the guts to jump even though he is beyond relieved he didn't. His heart feels like it's going to spill out of his eyes and it's just all too much, so he just puts his head in his hands and cries. Bakugou is packing up his sheet when he finds a letter underneath his pillow. It's from Midoriya. He thanks Bakugou for fighting off his bullies, for helping him with his homework, for taking care of him when he was sick. He tells Bakugou he can have his limited edition DVD Blu-ray of Neon Genesis Evangelion. He signs it off as Deku. What the F is this? A cry for help? A self-pity letter? Bakugou is beyond said and storms out the dorm building just in time to see Todoroki step out of the car with a sobbing Midoriya. F you Deku. He screams and Todoroki whps around and looks ready to murder him. Tell me what the F this is. He crumbles up the note and throws it at Midoriya's face and Todoroki reaches out to catch it. Midoriya stops crying long enough to look at him with this face of utter surprise, like he didn't expect Bakugou to care so much, and Bakugou feels like exploding. If you ever, he's shaking and has to gulp down whatever emotion is clogging his throat. If you ever pull shit like this again, I'll kill you before you can do it to yourself. He turns away and doesn't stay to see Todoroki's shocked look and Midoriya's shameful one. The letter remains a crumpled ball in Todoroki's fist. He doesn't need to read it to know what made Bakugou so mad, what made Midoriya so ashamed of himself, and what led to his finding Midoriya on the side of the road smelling like 3 bottles of whiskey. It's the same reason his mom had landed herself in the hospital, needing her son's assistance every day for 6 months, waking up screaming some nights, clutching at invisible wounds, Todoroki rousing from the bed next door to slide her back until she calmed down. He turns his head to the side to where Midoriya is laying on the bed in his and Bakugou's dorm. A lot of things have happened in the past 6 months without his knowledge, and as much as he would like to place all the blame on Bakugou's head, he knows that this is partly his fault. It hits him like a cement brick, that he knows nothing about Midoriya at all, where he came from and what he's like now, aside from the fact that Midoriya has 67 freckles on his face. He feels the burn on his face itch and he reaches one hand to ghost over Midoriya's cheek, scratched and stained with dried BLD from where he hit the concrete when he fell, and Todoroki sees that Midoriya bleeds red too. His hand hovers over Midoriya's forehead to smooth out his 2 long bangs as he slept. He finally realizes during his gap year 2 things he'd learned from his 18 years growing up. 1. His mother isn't weak. For living, for enduring. She's probably even stronger than he is. And 2. Midoriya is the same. He finally realizes during his first moments back 2 things he'd learned from his gap year. 1. Midoriya has scars, and 2. He thinks he might love Midoriya even more because of that. Kaken. Uraraka. Running. Falling. Izuku wakes up with a start, bolting in an upright position. His hands clutch at soft fabric, not concrete. He hears the crickets chirping, not the busy flow of traffic beneath the bridge. His cheek is in a cotton bandage, not crusted with BLD. He sees the familiar darkness of his room, not the cityscape 500 feet in the air, and when he finally lets his breath go, the room seems to contract and expand with his exhale. He feels the bed dip to his right. Izuku didn't even notice him. "Oh, you're awake," the shadow says. "Shuto," he breathes. "You scared me." He can't really see, but he thinks the shadow gives him one of his Todoroki stares again, probably to be followed by a long, indecipherable silence. "I was scared for you," he says instead. Izuku fists the covers, shaking. "Yeah." The bed lifts as Shuto gets up to pad over to the other bed in the dorm, and Izuku suddenly feels so small, alone on his side of the room, swaddled with 3 blankets and 1,000 thoughts. "Shuto," he calls out, and he hears the footsteps pause. "Could you stay with me for a while? I'll be in the same room." I meant in the same bed." Izuku's ears burn at the thought of asking someone his age to comfort him because of some nightmares. "The bed's too small," Shuto responds after a while, and Izuku's flush travels down his whole body. "Oh, sorry to bother you, Shuto." Good night," he says, flustered, and ducks his head beneath his covers to stew in silent embarrassment. Ba-dump, bidump. His heart works to pump an excess amount of BLD to his reddening cheeks. Of course he would find it weird to be asked that. "What were you thinking, Izuku? Oh my god, do you have no shame?" Screech. "Is this better?" Shuto's voice sounds closer than he expected it to sound from the other side of the room, and Izuku pokes his head out of the covers. Shuto's laying next to him, on the bed he'd pushed across the room to be flush against Izuku's. He's sure Shuto can't see it, but he smiles at his shadowy outline. "Yeah." Shuto pulls one of the blankets off his bed and lays it across both their forms, making sure Izuku was fully covered before adjusting himself comfortably. Izuku's never been this close to him before. He's never been this close to anyone before. He curls toward Shuto, his grip on the sheets loosening, breathing in Shuto's scent. He smells nice. He can feel the creak of the cheap college bed as Shuto breathed, the shuffling of his limbs as he rearranged himself in a more comfortable position, the heat emanating from his body, the heaviness of his hand next to Izuku's, and, if Izuku tried hard enough, the strong beat of Shuto's heart in unison with his own. Bimp, bimp, bimp. Chapter 9. Closer. Aside from the 30-second cameo Todoroki made when he skirted Midoriya out of his FING BMW, Bakugou doesn't see him for a few weeks. It's only when the summer research sheet he's been working on calls for some of his old chem notes on DNA gyrase that he realizes that he's left them back at his old dorm. Maybe. If he were a better roommate, he would have visited sooner, more often too. He does call a few times, though, and Todoroki answers the phone. One of their conversations goes like this: "How was your trip?" "Fine. My mother tried to commit suicide." It seems like we've both had our share of suicidals. F you for leaving me with Deku when he's like that, by the way." The other, like this: "How's the boyfriend?" F you that he's annoying." "How's Deku?" "We've gotten somewhere." "Still a little hard sometimes." "I'd imagine." Seems like we've both had our share of people with dyed hair too. Todoroki answers the phone, but Midoriya answers the door. "Kaken!" he exclaims, equal parts happy, surprised, and nervous. Bakugou grunts, "You gonna let me in, or what?" Bakugou hasn't seen the dorm since he moved out, and Deku's turned it into a nerdy shithole within a span of a few weeks. He didn't even know it was possible. Bakugou isn't really surprised by the NGE poster on Deku's wall, or the action figures, or even the fact that Deku's and now Todoroki's beds are pushed so that they're right next to each other. What he is surprised by are the dumbbells in the corner of the room. He raises an eyebrow and gives Deku a quick once-over. "Oh, there the muscles are. Small and developing, a third-world country's army compared to Kirishima's guns, but they're there." Deku sheepishly rubs the back of his head. I've been training with Toshinori-sensei, he explains. Just weight training. No chem. Figured I could use some muscles. Ha. Where are my notes? Oh right. Deku picks up his green binder and pulls them out, and Bakugou suddenly realizes that the notes he'd seen Deku studying from all those nights ago were his. I'm not sorry for using your notes, Kaken. I think I'm gonna quit the fellowship, he says. Then quickly, as if scared that Bakugou might explode with old jealousy, and not because I'm, looking down on you or anything. It's getting a bit hard for me, actually, especially without your notes. Chem isn't really my thing. He looks up at Bakugou shyly, expecting some kind of reaction, but relaxes when there is none. Is Bakugou here? Todoroki asks from the bathroom. Tell him he left his, L'Oréal Paris Liner Intense Liquid Linert. F you, I'm taking that back. Also, it's cold in here, Bakugou yells back. Deku's gonna get sick, and next time you'll be taking care of him. He can stand a little temperature change, unlike some sensitive people I know. What was that? Bakugou screams and Todoroki pokes his head out, half of his hair pulled in a sandwich wrap with red dye and the other half in white dye. The sight almost makes the trip worth making. Why the F do you keep your hair ridiculous like that? Todoroki doesn't deign him with an answer and pokes his head back into the bathroom. He and Deku sit on the beds for a while, Deku on Todoroki's bed and Bakugou on Deku's bed, the line where the two beds meet between them, and Bakugou tries not to think of how far apart they've grown. Bakugou doesn't say anything and looks around Deku's nerd room once more. He could leave right now, he's got what he came for. But he's not going to let Deku off that easy, and Deku knows it. It was really stupid. Yeah, no sheet. I don't know, I guess I felt lonely. But didn't know what else to do. What the F dash? Read FING book then. Go lift some weights, you stick. Kaken, I'm not that much of a stick anymore. Deku whines and Bakugou snorts. Besides, I had no love, no one to love, I guess. Made me think some crazy things. No love? Well, now you don't have to worry about that anymore. Huh. They're still not at that stage? Kaken, why are you sighing? All this knight in shining armor sheet for 3 weeks, and the fucker still didn't get far enough to tell Deku his feelings yet. Well, if he still didn't make a move, maybe Bakugou'll try to help him again. Not that the fucker ever takes his advice, but Bakugou's nice like that. Nothing. He gets up and moves towards the door. Kaken? Kaken? Todoroki follows him out, hair still in sandwich wraps. Is Deku gonna be okay? Bakugou asks. Todoroki closes his eyes, thinks for a minute, opens them again. Yeah. He'll be okay. And maybe in an alternate universe, Bakugou would have crossed the width of the hallway, closed the distance, and kissed him. Just for old time's sake. But he has a boyfriend now, one with bigger muscles, shark-like teeth that hurt in a good way when they kiss, and a much warmer personality than Ice Queen's. Then again, maybe Todoroki only thaws when he's with Deku. Bakugou's seen the way his eyes soften when he looks at the sheet. So he says see ya later, instead, and makes a motion to leave. Todoroki thumps his back. Yeah, I'll see you soon. He's halfway down the hallway when Todoroki calls out again. Bakugou, one more thing? He looks up. Thanks. Bakugou turns around quickly so he can't see his rising blush. Yeah, whatever. You'll have plenty of time to pay me back between now and the next time we meet. FNG half and half. He raises his hand in a half wave and is out the building. Hey, Izuku? You don't think my hair is that ridiculous, right? That I think it's really cool looking. Izuku averts his eyes. Oh shit, I can't tell him. Oh my god. You think so? Shudo twirls a lock. What about if I dyed it yellow and blue? No. He shoots up and Shudo startles. White and red really suits you, Shudo. He nods furiously. Yeah, definitely. Never change it. So, Shudo eyes the weights in the corner of the room. Weight training, huh? Yeah. Kirishima got them for me when I stopped going to the gym. Muscles build self-confidence, I hear. You're fine the way you are, Shudo says. But that must be why Bakugou's so arrogant, huh? Oh my god, do not tell him that please. Izuku chokes. Was that a compliment or an insult? It can be whatever, Shudo shrugs. Pretty much sums up our relationship. Don't I know it, Izuku thinks. He flops on their combined beds, kicking his legs out. Across the room, Shudo's sitting on the floor where his phone is charging, tapping on it rapidly. His hair is bunched up in a combination of white and red and it looks absolutely ridiculous. But also weirdly endearing. He's not used to having someone that's not Kaken share the same space as him. And lately, he hasn't been used to having anyone share the same space as him. Wow, it hits him. He's been gone a long time. Really long. Something clenches at his heart and builds up inside of Izuku. He doesn't know what it is, but it makes him want to say, Shudo. He looks up and Izuku did not think this far ahead. Apparently, calling someone by his name will make him look up and expect something. Oh, are you hungry? He says lamely. I mean, it's getting pretty close to dinner, and I'll go make some right now. Something he did not miss about Todoroki was his stare. Sorry, you must be used to your mom's cooking. Or Kaken's cooking. Izuku. Kaken cooks really well, even though I haven't tasted his cooking in a long time and he always cooked between the two of us because the cafeteria food isn't that great. Izuku. So my skills definitely got rusty because he spoiled me so much, but I hope you like macaroni and cheese because that's the only thing. Izuku. He feels hands on his shoulders, halting him mid-sentence, and he looks up to come face to face with Shudo. At this distance, he can see every detail on Shudo's face and he takes in the curve of his cheek, the slope of his nose, the blue of his one eye, the tiny little sun freckles he sports on the bridge of his nose, and it's been so long Izuku almost forgot what he looked like. Izuku thinks, with Shudo right in front of him, that he understands why so many girls are infatuated with him. Are you okay? Shudo asks and Izuku frantically nods his head yes even though his heart is pounding faster and his mind is screaming, too close, too close. Good. He puts his forehead right against Izuku's so Izuku could feel his breath on his skin and his hair tickling his cheek and oh, your hair dried, Izuku says dumbly. It did, Shudo smiles and God, Izuku thinks. God is real. Shudo lets him go and Izuku breathes out a sigh. Your face is really red. Do you have a fever? He goes in to touch foreheads with Izuku again and Izuku practically jumps 50 feet away. It's fine, Shudo. Really? His hands flail in front of him until Shudo finally stops giving him a weird look and turns back to his phone. Oh my god, not even living with Kaken was this hard, he mutters underneath his breath. What was that? Shudo must have a bat's ears. Bakugou? Oh, don't worry about him, we'll be seeing him soon enough. Soon? Izuku can feel a weight pulling at his stomach. One encounter with Kaken was already exhausting. What do you mean soon? As in tonight? What? Yeah, Shudo shows him what he was texting on his phone before. Bakugou's boyfriend invited us to their housewarming party. Housewarming. Izuku flails even harder. We didn't even get them a gift. It's alright, the invitation was last minute. He wants to apologize for Bakugou being in but lately anyways. Or all the time. And I only have this Sephora gift card. It's not much but, I hope he'll like it. Shudo puts a hand under his chin and crosses his legs, wondering in that earnest yet completely unnecessary way a pretty rich boy of his nature had no right to. Oh my god, he's gonna kill me if I don't get him something, oh my god, he groans. Something green catches the corner of his eyes. I forgot to feed Zoro. He sees Shudo's confused look and elaborates, oh, it's the Marimo Kaken got me. You can get that for him, Shudo says. A Marimo? Izuku blinks. I'm sure. You think he'll like it? He's had quite the time with Marimos. Trust me, we've even had a conversation about them. You mean Kaken's wanted one this whole time? Izuku gasps. And he got one for me? He stares down at the little pot in his hands. Kaken, despite how yellow and scary he is pretty sweet sometimes, huh? Shudo says. Yeah, sure. He picks up his coat and wallet. Let's go shopping for that Marimo. And I need to make a stop at Mac for Bakugou. Didn't you already get him a gift? Izuku puts on his boots. I think I need to get him another one. He can imagine Bakugou exploding over the DMN Marimo. Anyways, let's hurry. Party starts in 2 hours. Alright then, Izuku closes the door and falls in step next to him. Hey babe, Kirishima says from the kitchen and goes to greet his boyfriend by the door. Bakugou just wants to fall into him and complain about how FING stupid Todoroki is and how annoying Deku is when he hears 4.5. Other voices coming from the kitchen. Yeah, babe. Vacas. Who? What's cooking, babe? Pikachu. Welcome back, babe. Soy sauce face hoots and they all laugh. Round face. Some other girl. Fuckers. The F are you beaches doing here? I didn't invite you. Yeah, Uraraka smirks. But your babe did. Oh my FNG god, Bakugou rolls his eyes. It's not like you have friends other than us, anyways. This is my girlfriend, by the way. Hi, I'm Azui Tsuyu. Call me Tsuyu. Kirishima talks a lot about you, but your personality seems even worse than how he described. Love really is an amazing thing. Bakugou chooses to ignore the comments and turns his attention towards a girl with big eyes, wearing all green. So Frog Girl here is the reason Deku got his little nerd heart broken? Uraraka has the nerve to look embarrassed. I talked to Deku about it. He's fine with it now. He has Todoroki as a boyfriend, after all. They're not together officially, Bakugou says, watching Uraraka's eyes widen. I'm gonna push them together if that's the last thing I effing do. Aw, Ashido claps her hands together. You're not such a bad guy after all, Blasty. What a good friend, Kaminari teases. He's so invested in his buddy's happiness. I am not doing it because I care about him. Bakugou denies but none of them buy it. Those FING nerds are just so FING blind to it that it makes me sick. Kirishima hugs Bakugou from behind and laughs his full-body laugh and Bakugou can feel the vibrations on his back. Yeah, sure, they blast him explode. They hoot with laughter as he suffers in the middle, unable to escape due to Kirishima's strong arms around his waist. Just when he doesn't think his day could get any FING worse, the doorbell rings. Huh? Who the F is it? More guests. Kirishima perks up and rushes to the door. Sorry we're late. Bakugou hears an OF dash. Got caught up picking out a gift. Please don't let it be them. Kaken. Izuku's voice sounds and great, it's them. Bakugou sees a green eyesore walk into the kitchen. How have you been? Since the past 3 hours I've seen you? Just dandy, he growls, feeling heat rise in his cheeks. He had such a melodramatic goodbye with Todoroki too, and now he was seeing him not only a day later. The F you doing here? Kirishima invited us, half and half appears behind Deku. He's holding something in his hands. For you, he holds out. It's a Marimo. I know what it is, Halfie, why the F would you get me a Marimo? You don't like it? Izuku frets. Oh man, I knew we should have gotten him something else, oh my god. What if I was wrong and Kaken didn't want a Marimo all this time? Oh my god. Todoroki pulls Bakugou close, till their foreheads are almost touching, and shoves something in his hands. What the foo? Hush, Todoroki says, glare sharp. Take the gift. Bakugou looks down and holy F, Todoroki just placed not one but two $1,000 makeup gift cards in his hand. Todoroki wants him to hush up and take the gift? He's good at taking. He will take it like a beach, take it he will. Todoroki pulls away and Izuku, caught up in his own mind, doesn't even seem to notice what had just transpired. Deku, he snaps and Deku's head shoots up to look at his. Thanks, he waves the Marimo. I'll take care of it. Kaken. Deku offers a wobbly smile. So you do like it? Todoroki's glaring at him from behind Deku so he sighs heavily and says, yeah, it's great. FING fantastic. Best present ever. I love it. Now And Deku practically cries himself a river. If Deku wore eyeliner, maybe he wouldn't cry like a beach so often. Well, his job here is done. He doesn't need to stick around with Deku any longer. He doesn't even have to turn his head, he FNG knows Todoroki's there, smiling at Izuku dopely even though his overactive tear glands are working and spouting fountains down his face. FING disgusting, he thinks. He told me to F off. Izuku rubs at his eyes furiously. Kaken said that to me. Do you need me to beat him up? Shudo tilts his head, cracking his knuckles. Oh geez, sorry about that. Kirishima rubs the back of his head. Katsuki's thankful really. You know how he is, he just has a potty. Shudo opens his mouth but Deku interrupts, "No. I know. Kaken said F off and I'm so happy." "What?" Shudo says. He brushes Izuku's bangs aside and puts their foreheads together. "Are you alright? Do you have a fever? Did you hit your head? What has he done to you this past year?" "I'm fine really," he sniffs. "I'm glad at least some part of our relationship is getting better." "I still don't get what you mean, but okay." Shudo holds his face in his palms and closes his eyes. "I'm just going to check on dinner." Kirishima leaves, giving them a wink, but neither of them pay him any mind. They're like that for a while. Shudo's head pressed against Izuku's, their eyes closed, their mouths in content little smiles, their hairs combining in the center a mishmash of red, white, and green. Izuku can feel every exhale on his skin and every inhale on the rise of Shudo's body. "Is this too close?" Shudo whispers and warm air brushes across his face. "No," Izuku says softly, not wanting to disturb the peace. "Not at all. You were really uncomfortable before." Back in our dorm. You looked pretty nervous when I did this." "No, it's okay," he reassures. "Just a little startled, that's all." Izuku's eyes open, brilliantly green, sincere and clear. "I meant it back then, you know," he says, and Izuku hums. "That I think you're fine the way you are." Izuku's cheeks warm in a blush. I don't know. I'm not really comfortable with you just saying those kinds of things." "It's okay. We have all the time in the world to heal." That seems to placate Izuku and he calms down. It seems to be the most NTMT thing when two people just stand and touch and are able to feel each other live. As if to get back at Shudo for making him blush, Izuku says quietly, firmly, "I miss being this close to you." "Me too," he says and can't stop the flush from traveling across his face. "It's okay. We have all the time in the world to get close too." Something in his makes his heart beat louder and overflow. 2 years of something. It urges him to open his mouth and pour all of it out, but he stops himself. There's no need to overwhelm Izuku when he just got back. There's no need to rush. They can take things slowly. Their faces are close, really close. Only their foreheads are touching. If they wanted to, they could fit them even closer, closer. "Okay, seriously," Kaminari calls. "Like, Bakugou's gonna get sad if you don't eat what he cooked? Is he a mom or something?" Uraraka laughs and Bakugou yells at them to shut the F up. "Well," Shudo reluctantly pulls away. "Ahem. Should we get going then?" "Yeah," Izuku says, looking down. "What?" They walk into the kitchen, pink in their cheeks and where their foreheads stuck together, hair mussed up in the front. Bakugou makes a mean lasagna. This is what they all learn, laying on the couches, lethargic and bloated from food comas. Izuku is so full he starts to feel sleepy. He tries to listen to the conversation about Kirishima's 2 a.m. meme calls. He doesn't even know. He's so tired, it must be because the couch is really soft, he's going to have to ask Kirishima where they got it. Or maybe it's the fact that Shudo is a warm weight by his side, like an anchor. He starts nodding off, his head droops forward and to the side and Shudo's shoulders are the perfect height for him to rest his head on. He feels Shudo freeze up beneath him and he contemplates taking his head off his shoulder. But then the muscles beneath his head loosen up and relax, melt into soft lines and liquid silk. Shudo's shoulder is the best pillow he's ever laid his head on. Shudo goes quiet, stops talking, then lays his head over Izuku's. They fall asleep like that. "They're so cute," Ashido whispers. "I think you mean FNG disgusting," Bakugou retorts. "I cannot believe Halfie just stopped talking in the middle of the conversation and went to sleep. What kind of rude fucker does that?" "Oh shush, but they're young and in love," Uraraka says and is shushed by 5 different people. "Oh yeah, they aren't supposed to know they're in love, right? Does it even need to be said out loud to be true?" Ajui comments. "They really are pretty dumb." "Cute the disgusting," Bakugou repeats and sinks even further into the couch. "Ah, don't be like that." Kirishima puts an arm around him and hugs him close, cuddling him like a big, slobbery dog. "Now that's disgusting," Kaminari whispers into Ashido's ear. "Nope, still pretty cute, actually." "Shut the F," Bakugou begins to say but is pulled right back into Kirishima. He can hear the idiots giggling. Out of the corner of his eye, he can see the two fuckers sleeping on the couch. He watches Uraraka slide her hand over to Tsuyu's discreetly, like she thinks no one's watching, and thinks of Todoroki and Deku and how hard they would blush just from holding hands. Yeah, Bakugou thinks, I'm surrounded by dumbass.